Seems like that'd be at the top of the list of things that were nice. But what is actually better than a pension? I tried twice to get a pension. First, right out of high school, I thought I'd join the Marine Corps. And in the Marines, in the military, if you work 20 years, you can get a pension. It's changing now to this Soldier for Life plan, where you might be able to get something like a pension before 20 years. And then a lot of people in the military do like my friend did, where he did 27 years, because every year you go after 20, actually, your pension grows. But how much time do you have to put in to get that pension? And is a military pension or a law enforcement pension, which was my second thing that I tried, something you can retire on? A lot of times when people talk pensions, they actually have two to retire. So they do 20 years in law enforcement or military, and then they do 20 years working for the city or for a union company. They take the two pensions plus Social Security and have a very decent retirement. A lot of money coming in from different sources. But how much time did that take? And one of the problems that I have with pensions is kind of like law enforcement. Not only you can retire sometimes at 15 years of service in law enforcement, but you have to have your service and your age total to equal a certain number. There are times where if you work 25 years in law enforcement, you can retire at any age. So if you started at 18 or 44, you can retire. But if you started at 30, you add that together with your age and the time, and you're in your 60s again by the time you can retire. How much time does it take to get a pension is just the first negative with it. The second thing is who's benefiting from you having a pension, right? Why do pensions exist? Why do we have a retirement plan? Why does Social Security exist? It isn't because we want to take care of our elders. We don't have Social Security so that older people don't have to work. That's actually the opposite of the reason why Social Security exists. Social Security came out in the 1800s in Germany when they were having a crisis where they couldn't get young people enough jobs. And they thought, instead of, going Soylent Green and getting rid of our older population, why don't we bribe them into staying home with just enough to survive if they worked long enough to get them out of the workforce to make room for the younger employees? It wasn't to get better employees. It was just to give younger people a chance to work. So the first thing that benefits from having Social Security is it pulls older people out of the work environment, especially now that our average life expectancy then was in the 40s. Right now it's 76. It was 78 in 2019. Now it's 76.6 years, 2 years later. So something's trending in the wrong direction. But the idea with Social Security and pensions is to pull people out of the workforce, sometimes when they're no longer productive. Did you know that Amazon actually has a program where they will train you in another degree, in another field, as long as you sign a form saying you will never work for Amazon again? Because they had a study that after 1 or 2 years of working for the company, your productivity level drops so much that it's better to bring on a new employee that they train and get a good year or two's work out of. They actually have a much shorter version of trying to get rid of people than a pension. But we think of pensions as if you put in enough time, longevity at a company, eventually you're going to get rewarded with the pension, but that's not actually what the purpose of it is. For us, the purpose is a pension means we probably can retire when we get to the age where we can't work anymore. But there's an age requirement. There's a number of years requirement. Then you add to the back end of this that right now there's not that many pensions left. Originally, pensions existed in the United States to pull people off of farms. The factory said we want people to come and work, but people were using the size of their family to retire on farmland. They would have enough kids so that when they got to the age where they couldn't work the farm anymore, they would have the kids take over. But now factories are saying, come work in the factory. So who was going to actually take care of you in your old age? So they had pensions here, but they were unsustainable. Life expectancy for people started going too long. Companies weren't soluble. They didn't have the funds to do it. So we switched in the 70s from the set pension where you were just going to get a certain amount for the rest of your life to whatever amount you invest with a bump from your employer, which is actually just taken out of your wages to be put on there. So that free money everybody says they're getting by getting the match, you're just not getting it in your wage. Now you're getting it with your 401k program. So the idea is, again, longevity with the company. The government is going to delay your taxes until you're much older and in a higher tax bracket. So they're going to make more money from you in the future because people expect taxes to be less as time goes on. Have you met government? So now we have these pensions that are trying to get you to stay at a company longer, trying to pull people out of the workforce when they're older and less productive, not quite as aggressive as Amazon does with their training program, which I think is called the TOM program. Somebody who works at Amazon can let me know. I ran a truck driving school and we had a lot of Amazon employees come through. They literally said, I can train to get a CDL. Amazon's going to pay for 95% of this cost of this course as long as I sign this form saying I will never work for Amazon again. I was actually there a couple of times when they gave the speech. They actually gave the speech to the employees. After you work here for a year, you kind of suck. So we're trying to get rid of you. Great information to have. So add to this the insolubility of the pension programs. In 2021, we were at like, and I wrote it down, we were like 84.8% on the aggregate fund ratio for state and federal retirement plans. Howdy, Mike. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to ramble on for a couple more minutes and then we'll jump into it. In 2022, that dropped to, or now it's down to 77.9 in 2022% of the aggregate fund ratio, which means people like Mike, a first responder, working towards, hopefully he doesn't stay long enough to get it, but working towards a state or federal pension might not have the funding to do the pension because, surprise, surprise, pension funds aren't just a bunch of money that people put into and then that money is there to be given out. It's a bunch of money that's put into an investment fund who generally invest in stocks. How's the stock market doing this year? How long is this bear market going to be? When are you going to retire? How is the pension fund going to be impacted? So when I talk about something better than a pension, I'm talking about making your own pension. That's what Mike is working on. That's what I did. It took a lot less time. I created a pension in about 10 years that's about at least 4 times what I would have got had I done 20 years in the Marine Corps. And then lucky for me, after Desert Storm, they downsized, so that wasn't even an option. I tried law enforcement like Mike is doing. And in 2008, the recession hit and I got laid off. So even that option for a pension was taken away from me due to something outside of my control. What I have with investing in real estate by myself, having control, is creating a pension, where now I have about $17,000 a month coming in every month that I don't have to get out of bed for, don't have to work for, can literally handle everything from texts and emails from my bed if I wanted to, which to me is a better pension because not only do I have control, but it's invested in an asset class that appreciates over time. Cash flow improves because historically, over a long enough period of time, rents go up and the cost of the mortgage stays close to the same. Yes, insurance and taxes can change, but not by how much rents do. Add to this that I'm using fixed rate debt that eventually the tenants will pay off. And now the mortgage doesn't exist on paid off properties. You also have the tax benefits of depreciation. The thing that really sucks about my military friends that worked and got their pension, stayed in long enough to get that pension, it's taxed. Yes, you get VA compensation, it won't be taxed. So get the enemy marksmanship award and you'll get some money. But if you don't do that and you work to your pension, Mike, what's the tax going to look like on a law enforcement pension?
Well, if I retire, what most people do as first responders is there's ways to pad your pension. The way that they calculate it is they take the average of your highest paid. For some people, it's highest paid 2 years. For some people, for me, it's highest paid 5 years. So what happens is those last 5 years of your career, you work an F ton of overtime to pad your pension, which is not dumb, smart thing to do. So if you can I made 25 years from now, who knows what I'll make. But right now I'm making like 120 grand a year. So, if I really pushed hard with overtime, could I maybe make 150 and get half of that, 75,000? That actually keeps me in a relatively high income bracket. Are you hearing that ding in the background?
Yes.
For those of you who know, every time a ding is somebody joining Matt's course, and I don't know how to mute that webpage, but currently I'm uploading.
No, we should leave that on. I'm actually kind of excited for Matt.
So, if you hear a ding, and there's already been like 12, you hear dings, it's people actively joining the course and getting their access right now. So, but yeah, with a pension, it's actually a good problem, I suppose, if you're in a higher income tax bracket, because the problem most people have is that their Social Security and their pensions, they're probably going to be at the poverty level. So at least mine's enough that I would make a little bit of money, but I still think it's pennies compared to what I get with real estate.
The excuse I usually hear when people are defending pensions, retirement funds, Social Security, stuff like that is, well, yeah, they're going to be at the poverty level, but they're going to have a paid off house. As if that's really going to make a difference. So a couple of super chats to get to here really quick. Dividend Dave, thank you. I apologize for all of the dad jokes that I make in my videos. I think I am hilarious, but no one else does. So I try to put the fun back in this, because how do you make entertaining investing? Right? That's
How do
why,
you make investing entertaining?
yes. How do you make this fun if you're talking about investing?
You take our clothes up and talk about it. Let's do it.
Exactly.
Dion.
Well, if you do that,
Right
it's great.
here.
On my Only Homes page, they pay me to put them back on. But
To our 95% male audience.
right, exactly.
Be a lot of fun.
That one guy's a little creepy, but I don't want to talk about you here. So it isn't so much the investing that I think is fun and entertaining. I think it's what you get to do with your life once you reach financial freedom. The idea of retirement, Social Security plans existing, because in Germany they were trying to get the older workforce out to make room for the younger workforce. I think the world is a better place if people have the jobs they want instead of the jobs they have to do for money. So if we get more people to financial freedom, not everybody is as lazy as me. Not everybody's going to literally just do nothing for the rest of their life. That's me, but that's not everyone else. There are people who will be more creative, have more time to learn new things, to develop things, and make the world just a better place. To me, that's fun. Corby, howdy. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Trying to find the video where you explain your business, specifically the umbrella insurance and how that protects you. The no LLC video, so the LLC video rant. At the very end, the last couple of minutes, I go into the 3 forms of asset protection that I actually have for my business. I have a video how to run it like a business. That might cover that, but I suppose I should make a standalone video on my forms of asset protection. But it's in that video. It's very simple. This is a business where you can make it as simple or as complex as you want to. And I do tend to run into a lot of people who really like to make it complex. And so my concern when people talk about making it complex isn't the investor who has 10 or 20 or 30 rentals who's making it more complex than it needs to be. It's the person who doesn't have one rental, who thinks, I have to have an LLC. I have to use creative strategies. I better do the Burr method because I don't have a bunch of money. I have to flip and wholesale to get the capital together. It's like all these creative things that you can do later, or confusing things that you can do later. That's who I'm defending. If you have 10 rentals, you want to have an LLC, doesn't matter to me. I don't think it has any impact on you. It's not any bad thing, not any good thing, but it's that new person that's just stopped in their tracks. But the Cliff Notes version, Corby, is 3 forms of asset protection. The first one is the umbrella insurance. So you have insurance on each property. And then you have an umbrella, which means if something happens with a lawsuit that goes above the threshold of the insurance that's on the property, then the umbrella policy kicks in. An LLC does not separate your assets. When you are sued, all of your LLCs are your assets. So they're in the lawsuit. Second form is leverage. I have 6 mortgages on my 7 properties. So the banks are in first position on the majority of my portfolio. So they are actually in first position. So nobody else is going to take the property. And the third thing, the most important one, is actually fix stuff. You get a report from a tenant. I got a text last weekend, my 3rd text this year from a tenant. So I don't think I quite hit the 2-hour average for January, which everyone says has 72 days. There was some moss on the edge of the sidewalk. Are we going to power wash this year? So text handyman, it's power washed. On to bigger and better. Self-managing is so hard. I don't know if I can handle it. But thank you for that, Corby. I will probably be making that video, but not today. And then I'll make sure I'm not missing any others here. No, I did. Here we go. Dividend Dave. Another super chat. Hey guys, let's play strip super chat. $5 and up. The host got to lose an article of clothing.
Well, there's only one article of clothing.
Thank you, Dave, for killing the super chats for all future videos.
Yeah, nobody's coming back with more money.
Right. So, how many years have you worked as a first responder, Mike?
8 years. Yeah, 8 years since 2015.
Okay. At 15, you can retire if you're 55 in your field.
So I can technically, I'm eligible for a pension after 15 years of service, but I can't collect on that pension until I'm 55 years old.
Okay, so you're You're millennial, Mike, so it's okay to say your age, right?
Yeah,
You're
I'm
like,
30. I'm 32. So if I worked
32.
15 years, I would retire at 40 and not be able to collect for another 15 years.
15 years, right? A lot of people in the military reserves run into the same problem. They do their first term to 4 years, 6 years, whatever that first term is, and then their exit NCO basically talks them into signing up for the reserve, saying, "Look, you've already put this time in. Why don't you work for a pension? You just it's your 2 weekends a month and 2 summers, or 1 weekend a month, 2 summers and 2 weeks in the summer, whatever the ratio is, and then you get a pension at 20 years." That you can't touch till 55. Now, if you're active duty, it's different. It's just like in law enforcement, if you did 25 years, you can retire then.
At
The
any
military,
age.
it's 20, but the reserves kind of get hit. And not a lot of them know that.
Mhm.
The military doesn't do a very good job of educating veterans. I mean, most think you can't use your VA loan until you get out. You can't use your GI Bill till you get out. You can only use your VA loan once. And everything I said in those 3 examples were all wrong. So that kind of sucks. So howdy, everybody. Howdy, Dividend Dave, Lauren, Peter.
Well, hold on. You see Joanne or Joan?
I missed.
Joan or Joanne Brannon. First super chat to your channel, Dion, and they didn't even say anything.
Nice.
So if you see a comment pop in
Gotta
from
look
them,
for a question. Yeah, that's
we'll
why
find it.
I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Howdy, Joan, Brandon. I think that was the super chat to keep clothes on. Much appreciated.
She got it in quick. Don't even say anything. Send it out.
Right. Although I've seen your thumbnails where you're Thor or whatever, so you could probably pull it off better. There was a question up here at the top. First, before I get to the howdies and everything, just to track for the people who watch the content more than, hey, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. We are 2 investors who are investing in buy and hold real estate, trying to share how we did it to help you get to financial freedom so that you can make your life whatever you want it to be instead of whatever it has to be. But the other day we did a live and I said, if somebody went to your video at 5 o'clock and left a comment, I would roll. I wrote down the names for all the comments here. There were 8. So since I'm a nerd and I have a bag full of D&D dice, I have an 8-sided dice. Dices. So from the comments down, I roll 4.
So the 4th comment on my video,
Matthew Paris. Well, because there was kind of a 2-step process. I left a comment, some people commented on that, and then some other people left a comment, which both worked. So Matthew Paris was the name that I had. I wrote down all the names. So if Matthew watches this in Futureland, that was to get a 1 hour, 55-minute, so it's not an hour, 55-minute Zoom call to talk finances, not advice, just what's your situation? And the hour, actually, it was a choice. Matthew might choose the audiobook. Some people don't want to talk to me.
Matthew is here watching it. He commented earlier.
Okay, cool. I haven't seen it yet. So congratulations. Let me know, book or hour or 55 minutes. The reason it's 55 minutes, because I don't want to create a taxable event. Too long to explain, but.
Your super chatter, Joan or Joanne Brannon message, by the way. She said that she I think it's a she, said, failed putting a message in my super chat, closing on my first duplex on the 24th, mainly because of all the info that Dion has put out. Thank you so much. It means the world.
That is too awesome. Nice. That was my first investment property purchase too, was a duplex. So I have a couple of questions for you, Joan. Is it house hack, investment? How did you find it? I don't want to get too picky with the details because I know you're already suffering from enough nervousness of closing on your first deal. It gets easier. Everything you do the first time in real estate is terrifying. After that, it kind of feels like you could teach a course. And some of us don't want to teach a course. So I'll leave that to you and Matt. Oh, Matthew Paris, I have a deal with Dave. If I ever want to give it to him. Congratulations, Dave. Nice. So now, Dave, you get to pick. Or Dave just hacked Matthew's account. But you get to pick hour or book. That's awesome, Matthew. Cool. That is awesome about the duplex. Try to think of how many millions of people, 70 million people want to buy a home. Right now, that's the current statistic we heard from Redfin within the last couple of weeks. Number was very similar last year, and like I think it was like 30% succeeded out of that. It's crazy numbers. That means a lot didn't. So to close now means you found a deal that was worth pursuing, qualified for the loan. You got through the barrier of video after video after video of fear prawn, basically just sending out all the reasons you shouldn't buy, especially if it's coming from people who then are trying to buy. That's ridiculous. It's kind of bonkers. Michelle, howdy. You asked a question about a Facebook Live that came out the other day. There is a gentleman named Dion who runs Blue Collar Capitalist Group on Facebook. And much like me a couple of years ago, is not very tech savvy. He is an investor and he's killing it with investing. He's actually much more creative and does a lot more work than I do. But when it came to Facebook won. He couldn't get the live to work. We were going to share Dion and Dion strategies. He has the hard, complex way. I've got the simple, lazy way, and we're going to share the information with people. So expect to see hard way Dion and lazy way Dion in a live together soon. So there were some good questions on that came up. I tried to stay in the chat, but it was challenging. I like Rob. You're not old enough to remember what a Mervyn's was, Mike, but the open was a commercial a billion years ago. Nice. I'm a fit. Howdy.
Somebody else joined Matt's course.
Nice. So speaking of courses, one of the things I did for the last couple of years is be a teaching assistant in the BiggerPockets boot camps, the real estate rookie boot camps. And I'm doing that again. So next week, another boot camp starts. So if any of you are enrolled in the real estate boot camp, I look forward to seeing you. I'm the teaching assistant for this go round. The thing that I really like is the BiggerPockets boot camp is how to get your first rental. It's really literally kind of my target audience. I think I did a poll one time and like 60% of the people who watch my channel, it's like 64%, don't own a property yet. So I'm trying to get people to understand the basics of all the things you can do before you own it, before you're even making offers, before you have a market, before you have a strategy, before you've talked to an agent. There's a list of things that you could be doing right now. The BiggerPockets bootcamp is how to get that first rental. The Lumberjack Landlords course is you've closed on a rental. Oh crap, now you're a landlord. What do you do now? So synergy kind of lines up really well on that. I really like doing those boot camps too. So I'm also participating in the Lumberjacks on the self-managing, the binder. We did the binder videos. Hopefully those were uploaded and came out, worked out well today. So
I just clicked to upload a second one right now.
Oh, nice. Cool. Howdy, Cody. Surprised you're here. Cody prefers the shorter content than the longer live streams, which I totally understand. Financial Fighter, aloha. Saw your name on the comment on Mike's video. Sorry you didn't win the role. Maybe next time. I think although we're going to cheat though, I think we're probably just going to do a video together so that gets you a Zoom call. It's very similar, right?
Smart.
Howdy, Larry. So the idea now is this live will last as long as the questions do, and I won't hold Mike to staying here for as long as the questions last. I know you actually still have a life, a young kid to take care of. That I don't. My kids are smart and moved out.
Well, my son's 6, so that would be
quite impressive.
That would be quite the accomplishment for him. Dad, I'm out of here. Bye. He decided to cut his own hair at school this week, so that was nice.
Oh, nice. But that's a little better than my kids always cut someone else's hair.
No.
So those parent calls were never fun. Then I had a kid that cut up all the bus seats. I was in the police academy when I got that phone call. That was fun. Don't look forward to 14 for you. 6 is a much better age.
Yeah.
And then just so everyone's aware, I always want to clear this up in the live streams when we do this. Seeing the chat is kind of difficult while you're doing this with the tech that we use. So Mike is not acting like a teenager, checking his phone out and texting everybody through this entire thing. He's actually watching the chat on his phone where he can see it.
And responding to you guys in the chat.
Correct, right.
Rob has a $2 super chat.
I see that, and it's a question for you, so go for it.
Mike, having edited Matt's course, what's your takeaway? It's a good question. There is so much information, it's not possible for you to retain it all. It took him 20 years. It's unreal. There's about 40 videos that I edited. Each of them are about 15 minutes long. And it's so in depth that maybe he could put them on YouTube and they would do okay, but they're so in depth that honestly, people would probably just get bored. It would appeal to a very niche audience per every topic. I think that people will make their money back thousands of times over at multiple different points. We did a video earlier today, so I won't go into too much detail, but Matt and Dion and I did a video earlier today. Just the one video on how to properly write out a listing that will either go on Zillow or Craigslist, or just the one video on how you should structure what you say in your listing and how you can make it appeal to different demographics that you want to target, like student housing, military family. Just that one video will save you and make you thousands of dollars, because you'll be able to get your unit rented faster. You'll be able to get higher qualified tenants. You'll be able to get top dollar. So just that one video, and they all of them are like that. It's unreal. He's got segments in there where he talks about how to save money when it comes to doing remodels. So if you're the type of guy who's going to buy something that you're going to remodel and do the value add, he talks about how you can save money by reusing certain things. He talks about, hey, don't throw out your porcelain bathtubs. Those are $5,000 brand new. You can refinish it for a few $100. You don't have to pay to dispose of it. They're wonderful. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's bad. And maybe that's something that you only deal with in older houses. But some of my houses in Gary, Indiana, built in the 40s and 50s, have these porcelain bathtubs. And so, yeah, if you can keep that, that's unbelievable value, because it's significantly better than any of these inserts they do nowadays. He's just got all these other tips and tricks, one right after the next. I won't give away the entire course, but it's also the platform that it's on. We're both kind of learning it at the same time. It's called Mighty Networks. It's sort of a combination of Facebook and YouTube. So you can create a profile, and you can friend other people in the course. So you can interact directly with other people in the course. And people that have already joined, you might even recognize some of the names. I'll read them off real quick because I was just looking at them. Like everybody here probably knows Robert Farinelli. He super chats all the time. CJ Underwood super chats all the time. I won't read anybody else because I don't want to give away personal names, but those two guys are here on YouTube all the time. So you have an opportunity to interact with other people taking the course. You have the opportunity to create discussion forums and boards and upload your own thoughts. All of the videos, you can comment directly under them, just like you could a YouTube video. So it's like a really nice combination of YouTube and Facebook together, the platform the course is on. So there's a lot of good things to about it. I have spent a lot of time editing, but I'm glad that it's finally there, and everybody gets to look at it and see what they think.
I can't stress enough how sometimes something that seems really simple to Matt that he just says. I've been investing a decade, and I learned electric stuff that I wouldn't have done on a tenant flip recently that helped me. I have a friend who has a unit that's vacant, and I made the mistake that most investors do when you list a property. We want to be accurate. We want to make sure it has the information that we would want to see if we were looking for a place. Matt points out in his, and again, I don't want to take away from the course, instead of how to make a good listing, he shows how to make a good listing, but how to have it stand out. And just a simple mindset shift and the way it looks. So I'll be making a video on the experience of my friend who made a couple of changes based on Matt's advice and how that turned out. Sabra, Jason, howdy, Tiffany, Laser Focus Solutions. Nice. I like it when these notifications pop up too. They don't always. Shred, howdy. And Rob says a pension means you can become the gamer you wish you were at 15 now that you're 50. It'd be a lot better to become the gamer at 35 than 50.
Hold on. Melissa Molina just sent you a super chat. And
howdy, Melissa. I will wait and see if there is a question that pops up.
There is. She said one way earlier, and the reason I honed in on it because she said something like Gary, Indiana. So I'll read it real quick. She said, so glad I found you all a few weeks ago. I'm buying in Gary, Indiana. My friends call me crazy. I understand how you feel about that. My friends call me crazy. I watch your videos to remind myself I'm on the right path, not their path, but the right path. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so Melissa, dude, investing in Gary, Indiana, you're going to catch flack. When I went with Dion to speak at Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategies, most recent event, dude, I just got flamed the whole time I was up there. They just both kept joking about how, their $500,000 real estate gets them a nice little, multi-unit building. And in Gary, it buys half the city, which, fair point. It probably does. But there's unique challenges and also unique opportunities in Gary, Indiana. If you want to find better cash flow, it's pretty much impossible. For what you pay out in terms of your down payment to what you can get back in terms of rent, like there's really not much that's going to be better that I've seen like anywhere in the country. That being said, you get zero cash flow if you can't get tenants to actually pay, if your rentals get inhabited by gangs or something. So there's a lot of unique opportunities. There's a lot of unique challenges. So for Melissa, I don't know if you've watched my videos or who you're using as your property manager, but yeah, I hope you have a strong network of other people there that can help you out. And if you need help from me, send me a DM on Instagram or check out my channel, because if you need someone to do a repair and not get all your stuff stolen overnight because the construction crews left stuff there and then someone broke in and stole it. Like if you need help investing there, have a good team. So hit me up if you need help.
Howdy, Gavin, who just closed on one over lunch today. Sounds like a good Monday or Tuesday or whatever the day of the week it is. Nice. There was a question here. I can't find it, so I think I'm going to try to get it out of memory. What are our thoughts on a new build as a rental, as a turnkey rental? I'll ask you first.
Matt sent me a blueprint deal on a new build duplex for $390,000, cost of land and cost of building. A duplex in Florida for $390,000 in LaPorte, Florida. It's on the it's on the west coast of Florida, kind of over by. Where's that Mark lives? Cape Coral, kind of over by Cape Coral. And I was like, oh man, I want it so bad. Only $390,000. I paid $450 for my duplex. That's now worth $800K. I have no problem with a new build if it was a duplex. I don't think it probably makes sense in any other form. Let me explain why. The starter house concept has gone away. I don't know if you've looked at any new developments, if they've gone up in your area. At least the ones that go up around me are all 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 to 2.5 baths. They're big houses. They're expensive houses. The types of houses that don't cash flow as a rental in dang near any market, unless you can buy them at a steep discount because someone else screwed up. My bread and butter for rentals are 2-bed, 1 baths with like a finished attic or finished basement that can be used as an extra bedroom, but maybe technically isn't one, or a 3-bed, 1 bath that's an older house, 60, 70, 80 years old, built in the 50s or the 60s. Those are my bread and butter for my best rental properties. And then, of course, I have a couple of duplexes and I love multifamily like that. But brand new build, 4-bed, 5-bath, or 4-bed, 5 beds, like people who can afford to rent there probably can afford to buy. So me personally, I have not heard of a lot of people with a lot of success with those. Maybe short-term rentals, maybe if you're in the right area, but again, I haven't done it, so I don't know.
2 things to look at when you're looking at new builds. Generally, the way the math pencils out is you're going to make a profit in about 5 years. So your cash flow is actually going to be positive in about 5 years if you're lucky. So that's why I've not looked at anything that was younger than 15 years old as a build, because I want cash flow now. If you found one that would cash flow and it magically was in the right area and the right cost, sure. Here's the problem with the duplex in Florida, which my friend purchased one of. Here's what you need to look for. Here's where you benefit from watching content like this. That's a builder getting your commitment to build it. You're the plan B. They now have commitment to build it at that price. Once you get under contract and the ground is broken and the build is underway, now it's a bidding war to everybody who can bid out and break your lease, your contract. The underwriting on the contract that you're going to have, if you don't ask any questions, is going to be they're going to give you every penny back that you gave them, plus $50. So watch what the lease termination fee is. If it's significant, $15,000, $20,000. Yeah. If they get outbid and you make 15 or 20 grand just by tying your money up for 6 months, sure.
Right.
But if it's here's all your money and $50, you just got took.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just getting you in line. So go through that lease one or that contract one more time and see what it takes for that builder to get out of working with you, because that's the business model. We need somebody to secure this so that we can get the lending from the bank in place to do this build. Once we're underway, now we could say, hey, everybody, we've got one. This is when it's going to be completed, final and best. Anybody that beats it by enough takes your duplex. Needless to say, my friend was shocked.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, they're still paying better than the bank in terms of interest rate. If you can make $50 on your $200,000 investment, but other than the banks, you're going to lose. That's a pretty terrible investment.
Kevin Kauto, sorry you didn't get the notification sooner. It happens to me the same way too. I invest in CSX, which so much is shipped by railroad. Not sure what that is.
It sounds like a stock ticker if it's 3 letters. I have no idea though.
Yeah, not a stock guy.
Oh yeah, that's that Michael Anthony guy. Yeah, no. That guy does. I can't decide whether or not that's a spam account. He jumps into the live streams and always says something stock related that has nothing to do with the conversation, and then boom, he bounces. So I don't know if he's a spam.
Weird.
Whatever.
I know I'm missing questions, so I'm going to count on you to make sure I don't miss any that we can get to. There it is. It was Carrie that asked the rental option. Sean, howdy. I have a 4-plex under contract in Owasso, was it Michigan? I'm going to ask for a letter of estoppel. Is that enough, or should I confirm the tenants have been paying rent with bank statements from the seller? It never hurts to ask for bank statements. I don't put any stock in the current rents the tenants are paying, what's on their leases, or what the deposits are. All of that can be fabricated. When I'm buying a property, what matters to me is area average rents, about 10% below that. Will it be a cash flowing deal at that? You might have a messy year that first year where you're dealing with tenants that don't pay and you go through evictions. You might have tenants who had a situation like mine where they didn't pay a deposit, so they were paying a higher rent for the first year, and they expected their rent to go down the next year because the deposit is no longer in it. It wasn't in the lease anywhere. It was just an expected thing. Wouldn't know that if I didn't talk to the tenant on the inspection walkthrough. But when you're looking at your deal on your 4-plex that's under contract, how do the numbers work? If you looked at area average rents, you get your rent box going like the lumberjack landlords talked about, and go a little bit lower than that. Does it make sense at that? Everything else not only can be fabricated, but it's something you're probably going to change.
Yeah, when it comes to me asking for rents, sorry, just to jump in on that. Yeah, so I mean, I've taken over properties that have tenants before, and I don't like it. I've only had one good experience taking over a tenant, and that was on the tenant that I took over when I bought this duplex that I house hacked. And this is in a very nice neighborhood with very nice, high quality tenants. Other than that, anytime I've taken over tenants, there's just always something that gets missed, or even if they were great tenants before, they appeared to be great tenants, new owner, new issues. So if I can buy it vacant, I will. If I can convince or coerce the seller to have them vacate for me, then I will. If I have to take somebody on, I will, and I'm hope for the best. And yeah, even with a turnkey property, the one that I bought, and the purpose of selling a turnkey property so that you get a tenant in there paying market rent, I still had problems with that tenant. Now they're still with me 3+ years later, but there was a bumpy ride. Now I'll give them a break because it was also during the health epidemic, and they worked at the Ford factory, so there were issues there. So I'll let it slide. But other tenants that I've bought from or taken over, it's a struggle. So I mean, I would just plan on hoping to get them out as soon as possible, because you're going to want a binder strategy anyways, if you can. And depending on if you're buying stuff right, buying it so far under value, even with a binder strategy, it might be a little far to get people up.
I think there's a really valid point there that your market determines that too. So if you're investing here where your duplex is, and you purchased and you had a decent tenant, and then you purchased in Gary, Indiana, where a lot of people are probably selling they have a portfolio of 15 or 20, and they're like, that one sucks, we're going to sell it. You probably want a vacant unit or be ready for turnover if you buy it. Right. My preference in Washington is occupied units. I have had one issue with a tenant of all the ones I purchased with a tenant in place. And so I was like, oh, I'm sorry, this is an owner occupied purchase. You're the one that gets to move.
Mhm.
But I've had a great experience with it here. If I was buying in Gary, based on your experience, I would probably go looking for the vacant units for the same reason. So kind of knowing that real estate is local and what works in one area is important to know. I see that I'm probably going to miss a few, but there's a couple of questions here that I want to cover from buddies. I think there's two. So what worries you? Okay. Howdy, buddies. What worries or concerns do you have with your rentals when you travel around and enjoy retirement? So it's probably the same concerns that Mike has with his investment portfolio because it's at a distance. My network. I don't worry about the properties or the tenants because there are laws in place, there's insurance in place, there's leases in place. It's my network. So I keep at least two. I try to have at least three, but I always have at least two handymen that I basically give super easy jobs to and overcompensate them so that they're available at 10 o'clock on a Saturday when there's an issue and I'm in Thailand, which is where I'm going in about 2.5 months. I'll be there for at least a month and then going to Australia for at least a month, maybe less than a month there. It depends on how many things try to kill me in Australia. So we'll see how that goes. But while I'm gone, that's the concern, is I want those handymen happy. So I'm probably going to develop a relationship between now and when I go with a third to make sure that they're all available. To me, that's the most important one since I self-manage. Those are the concerns I have. I don't have concerns of a burn down because that's an insurance call. I don't have concerns of literally anything at the properties because it goes to attorneys or whatever. It's the things that need fixed on a smaller scale. If I'm trying to think, like literally if a tree falls and damages the building, insurance call. If a pipe breaks and there's a flood, that's the plumber contractor, right? It's nothing that requires me going to the unit. But if it's something small, like a tenant calls and says, hey, the front door lock kind of quit working, I want to make sure I've got somebody that can go out and replace that within a couple hours. So that was the first question. Second one, can you share about your rental insurance structure? You want to cover yours first, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, mine's pretty basic. There's nothing complex about it at all. I have insurance on every single house that I have. I use National Real Estate Insurance Group, NREIG, and they give me a quote. I go for full rebuild cost, not just I forget what the other one is, but I want full rebuild because
the other one where they just make the lender happy.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if my property goes down to the ground, I don't want to just sit there on a piece of land. I want it rebuilt. And it's funny, actually, in Zuber's book, which is in my room because I was reading it last night. Otherwise, I'd hold it up. In one of his pages, I highlighted this when I first went through it. He said that he thought it was funny how he was buying a house for $100,000, but yet their rebuild cost was like $250,000, and that switched a little flip in his mind, or flipped a switch in his mind, where he said, "Wow, I'm able to buy a house right now for this much less than what it would even cost me to build it." So I always think it's funny, like I'm insuring this house that I just bought for 40 or 50 grand. And I'm insuring it at 150,000 because this is a beautiful brick house that would cost way more to build than what I just bought it for. But yeah, you do want to go with a full rebuild price. You want to have the highest deductible that you can because you're probably never going to file an insurance claim. The reason for that is if you file that insurance claim and you're lucky enough they actually pay out on it, they will probably jack your rates through the roof, charge you an arm and a leg. If you try to get away from them, any other company is going to do their research and see if you've filed an insurance claim recently. You won't be able to get insured with anyone else. So what you want to end up doing is paying the least amount of insurance each month that you can and have the highest deductible possible, simply so that you can save the money. Because you're never going to use insurance in the first place, because if you do, it's just going to suck. It's going to be a miserable experience. So you'd rather save that money monthly and have a high deductible. And if there's problems, you pay for those problems out of your vacancies and maintenance account. So when I run my numbers, the very first thing I do with all rent is I knock 30% off the top, 10% to a property manager, 20% for vacancies and maintenance. And when I have repairs, I've already been saving every month for however many years I've had this property, 20% of that gross cash flow net cash flow is going into an account. And that's how I fix stuff.
Cool. I agree with highest deductible. Never make a claim because they might, no one else can insure you for 5 years and your rates might triple. The insurance structure for me looks very similar. I have insurance on each property with a $300,000 injury or slip fall coverage, which seems to be kind of standard. Full replacement value on the insurance, not just make the lender happy because, like you, I want the place rebuilt. Or what some people do, they get the amount of money that it would take to rebuild, and then they sell off the lot. They strip the lot, sell it off, take the money and do something else with it. Third is, I probably should have done this when I got to 3 properties, but when I hit 4, I got an umbrella policy. It's not very expensive. It's like $550 a year for $2 million in coverage. When I first got it, it's like $630 now a year, so it's gone up a little bit. But that idea is, if there's something that can injury that goes above the $300,000 on the home, then instead of going after me, the next insurance policy, the umbrella, kicks in. The caveat to this is they usually require that your properties, your vehicle insurance, and everything go under the same company that's going to do the umbrella policy, and they will often require that your vehicle insurance is higher than the state minimum. So my policy required that my vehicle coverage go to 300,000 too, instead of like 60,000 or whatever the Washington state minimum is, and it was like $6 more. Like, it was super, almost not noticeable amount for massive more coverage on the vehicle, but that was a requirement for the umbrella policy to kick in. I probably got all those numbers wrong, but that was the idea. Higher coverage for not very much higher cost to satisfy the umbrella requirements. I think that was it with insurance. Yep. I took some notes as you were talking. You nailed it pretty much every point. Carrie, I have a condo worth about 400,000 and I owe 274. Can you walk through my cash out refinance options and how much you could pull out to look for another property? You won't like my answer, so I'll let Mike answer first.
Well, it sounds like they have $126,000 worth of equity, if I'm doing my math as well as the lumberjack does.
Doesn't mean it's all touchable though.
Right. Can you walk through your cash out refinance options, how much you could pull out to look for another property? So some places will let you take out up to 80% of your equity. So if you got 126,000, 80% of that's probably close to about 100 grand. So potentially you could, as Dion puts it, you have the ability to put up to $100,000 of more debt on your house. But yeah, you have the ability to go play with $100,000. Now, this is what I recommend to everybody who's considering getting a HELOC or asking about it. I think everybody should. If you are the type of person who is not going to go spend recklessly, and if you get like this credit card for 100 grand, you're not going to go do something dumb with it and buy like a jet ski or something, take a vacation to, Thailand or something foolish, like fly to Australia, like if you, I'm just kidding, Dion, you look great. You're paying for that out of cash flow anyways. So, but if you're the type of person who isn't going to have an issue, then there's no reason why having that home equity line of credit just sitting there, it doesn't hurt you. It's not an extra hit on your credit. It's going to show up as like an additional line of credit, but until you withdraw the money, it's not going to affect you negatively. So the advice I give people who ask me about it, I'm like, yeah, get it, have it sit there. If a deal of a century shows up, well, maybe you can jump on it and you might not have been able to otherwise. But I definitely would only use that money for real estate related purchases. But here's something else that I'll caution you against. Most HELOCs have variable rate debt on them. Some of them might be fixed for a term, like the first year or the first couple of years. You can fix your rate so that your payment doesn't move. But a lot, like mine isn't. Mine is variable from day one. It's the Fed funds rate +1. And so if you're going to use that money, you need to understand that the ground can shift underneath you. So if you max out your $100,000 payment with a 3% interest rate, and then it doubles to 6%, like just happened over the last few months, your payment's going to double alongside it. So it's a more complex strategy. It's not for beginners. There's lots of ways it could bite you and hurt you. And I don't want to see you get screwed over. So if the correct answer for you in your situation is, be patient, save more money, don't worry about having, or don't use the HELOC to try to be fancy yet. I still say open it. If you're disciplined, open it, have it there just in case. But there's nothing wrong with just saving, paying out of your existing cash flow and W-2 job to get your next several rentals. I bought 8 units before I used a HELOC to get creative. If you go on my channel, I made 2 videos, probably my most 2 recent videos are about how I use the HELOC to do the BRRRR strategy. And you can see on one of them, I absolutely smoked the deal. It was fantastic, got all my money back and then some. And on the other one, I ended up leaving more money in the deal than I thought I was going to. And I won't say an expert, but I always say experienced. So I don't want to see anybody get hurt.
Okay, that was the nicer version of probably what I'm going to say. Here's my breakdown on the ability to create debt on your existing asset. First, if you're going to use a home equity line of credit, like Mike said, the rate could change. So make sure that you can pay it off before the rate could change. So if you're going to use a HELOC and they go, we're going to give you 10 years fixed interest rate, can you pay off the amount that you're taking out within 10 years? It could be 5 years, could be 7 years, whatever it is. That's the first thing. Second thing is your lending options. You could take out a cash out refinance, so you have fixed rate debt. But if you have a good interest rate on your current mortgage, you might not want to touch that. So I suggest getting a second mortgage, which might be a little bit higher interest rate than if you did a full cash out refinance, but it leaves the current debt alone. The third option is it's a condo. You could sell it, take the gains. If you've been living in it, you can take out up to $250,000. If you're single, $500,000 if you're married. Because of the IRS Rule 121, you won't pay any capital gains tax on that, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can invest it or not. If you haven't been living there, you can 1031 exchange that gain into another property. And here's the two things I would consider with the condo. First, I wouldn't invest in another condo because it's in an HOA. And the problem with an HOA is not the monthly fees. It's not that they can increase at any point in time and you have no control over that. And it's not really that the board is usually made up full of jerks who have nothing better to do than mess with people like their neighbors. It's that you can get a random assessment. The lumberjack landlord got one of like $70-something thousand because he had to redo the whole entire exterior of the building. He had no control over it. He just had to come up with it. So that to me says to sell and buy something else. If you're going to stay, the reason I went and touched the home equity line of credit is because first, what if you get a random assessment for 50 grand? Do you have that just laying around? And if you've used your equity in your property, what are you going to do? You'd be forced to sell to even come close to covering that cost, which would then be a part of the buyer's problem, which would limit your ability to sell. So it creates all of these problems. So I would keep the equity just in case you get a random assessment so that you could do a HELOC or a cash, second mortgage to cover that if it comes up. But before any of that happens, the question that always comes up first before other people call it tap equity, I call it put debt on an existing asset, is do you think you have the ability? And not just, I think I could. I mean, you actually know the offer that you make would be accepted on a property that would get you a yield that justifies the debt that you're putting on the property that you're purchasing and the debt you're putting on the existing asset. It's got to be a good enough return to justify both of those expenses and get you the yield that you want. So while it is a viable strategy and you have two main options, kind of like the answer to the question of somebody down here, Jared, talking about, he's 31, that I don't want to sell. I want to keep until I die, but he's younger. And if he sold, he could, buy something else that would cash flow more. You have a choice of recycling cash flow or recycling capital. So cash flow is money from your job, your side hustles, your rentals, your portfolio, your dividends, all of that is cash flow. Capital is your equity. You sell to 1031, all of those options. Recycling capital will grow your portfolio faster. And in a long enough time period, you'll actually have more cash flow too. But for somebody who's wanting financial freedom in 10 years or less, I have never touched equity. I have never created debt on an existing asset. Save a down payment, purchase the next rental. Maybe it's a house hack, maybe it's an investment. Takes a couple of years in the beginning, feels like forever when you're 31. It's like that you're never going to be 33, don't worry. But when you were 28, you didn't think you were ever going to hit 30 because that was the end of the world. But here you are. It takes time to recycle cash flow, but financial freedom happens faster than with recycling capital. Capital ends up being better down the road. That year 15 or year 20, you have more units and more cash flow. But for the first 10 years, recycling capital really limits your cash flow. So,
yeah, if you leverage up a ton, it just burdens your cash flow because you got to service that debt.
Right. And if you find the deals, sure. Like it totally makes sense. But are those deals all over? Is it real easy to find right now? Are you not just going to get into a bidding war? My last couple of offers that I made went 40 to 50,000 above asking with several back and forth last and finals. And I was making less than list price offers because they're not worth that. Just like Laura in Florida, howdy Laura, saying, there's a brand new duplex on the east coast of Florida asking us $475. One sold for $400. Still too expensive for the area, won't cash flow. So probably won't cash flow at the price or current interest rates or current rents. But somebody's probably going to buy it because not everybody invests for cash flow and not everybody is investing their own money. Some people are investing the gains from a property they purchased 20 years ago where they put $20,000 into it they're selling it now, and in their mind, they see $20,000, even though they're moving $500,000 with that property. So when it sells, it doesn't mean somebody else is stupid and they bought a deal that would not cash flow. It wouldn't make sense to the way we invest, where we're looking for cash flow. Sometimes people are investing to just park their money and hope it doesn't lose value. So hopefully these things are helping. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. And I will wait for the comment. Make sure it comes in. Make sure I'm not missing any questions here. REI Stoners made it home with a couple of hours of OT the other day.
Oh, man.
Everyone.
Just I like to hear.
A little update for REI Stoners. Me and my daughter got together. Thank you for your present.
Yeah, you finally
Yep.
So, I have to do some field sobriety tests on you, Dion, see how affected you are.
Exactly. I'm surprised you haven't mailed me a ticket for the videos where I'm driving down the road.
Hey, wait, first of all, you could be driving on private property. I have no idea whether I can confirm or deny that.
It could just be a green screen with a fake thing going by the window.
You could be in
Fake
Oregon. I have no
sounds.
jurisdiction, so it is what it is. But yeah, if somebody wants me to do a live stream of doing field sobriety tests on Dion after he's done one of these where he's, apparently participating, that'd be funny. That'd be a good time right there.
Well, I've always had military, law enforcement, and CDL jobs, so some things have never been an option.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. And this is how you derail a real estate podcast. Still waiting for Laura's comment. So Mike, if it comes up, let me know.
Sure. I think you're at Scott Coleman saying good evening to the MWO cartel, but I don't know what MWO is.
There you go. Marines with options.
I was gonna say men with options. Like, they know us so well, Dion.
All right. Have you heard? So Scott Coleman, howdy. Have you heard of the infinite banking concept, and have you used it? I have not. I've heard of it, but I have not used it. I think one of the negatives to my content. So let me know if you think this is a negative or a positive. So not Mike, but the people watching, because I know what you would say. You're doing what matters to you. I have not done any creative financing. I have not done any off-market deals. I have not driven for dollars, sent mailers, contacted owners. I've not done anything creative. All of my deals are from the MLS, conventional lending, simple. I've not done a rehab. I've made offers on potential BRRRRs. But so really quick, here's why I would do a BRRRR now, but I wouldn't do a BRRRR when I was starting out, especially right now with interest rates can do all kinds of crazy things. Why I don't want to be in the situation that you found yourself in, Mike, where you started a BRRRR when interest rates were 3%. You go to do your cash out refinance, interest rates are 6 or 7%. You still did really well, but that's one of the reasons why I've kind of avoided it. Yeah. I've saved up enough money to do a BRRRR with my own money. So the cash out refinance, the timeline, the need to get the money out because of a schedule doesn't exist. So I'm making those offers. I still haven't done one though. Like if you're watching my content and you're looking for creative strategies, you're going to hear me say, if you want to be creative and invest at a distance, here's Millennial Mike. If you want to be creative and do rehabs and run your own portfolio and recycle capital, here's Lumberjack Landlord. If you want to do seller financing and get $20 million in debt without having any bank loans, here's Corey and Christian multifamily strategies. Like the creative people I have surrounded myself with so that I can learn from them and the people that come to my channel can learn from them. What I'm sharing is super lazy, super boring. To me, boring is sexy. It made me able to retire. It took 10 years. It like the first 2 years, if you're 31, like the commenter, I'm 31 and I want to do it faster. 2 years feels like forever. But if you could do this for 10 years and you could pass the first 5 years where it's 2 years between purchase, then a year and a half, then a year, then 6 months. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, well, I have enough rentals. I have enough cash flow. Money's building up. I'm probably going to buy another rental, but you don't need to. At the 10-year mark, it's an entirely different planet that you live on than most of the people that you'll ever meet. And I see Laura's chat popped up. After your last week conversation about insurance, I contacted my insurance agent. I told her I wanted to increase the deductible to the max. I was about to reduce it by $500 on renewal. I was able to reduce it about $500 on renewal. Another benefit to the higher deductible beyond for me, it's a mental barrier. I try to keep my insurance. That's a great comment, Laura. Thank you. I try to keep my insurance at 10,000. Sometimes when I was renewing or changing, they had a 5,000 cap. So I have a couple of properties with a $5,000 deductible. Most have a 10. For me to do a claim, I think that the damage would have to be 30,000 or higher, like 3 times my deductible for me to go, let me pull money out of my pocket and then also touch insurance. If the deductible was $1,000 and the damage was 20, I'd probably go with an insurance claim. See the mental change, but my deductible is so much higher. It's not that much of a difference because I want to be insurable. I don't want them, because the worst thing that can happen to you is insurance says, okay, so we're going to pay the claim. And now we are not going to insure you. So now you have a claim. So for 5 years, you can't get insurance. So the lender places, and I hate to use the word twice, but they use lender placed insurance, and you have no control of the cost or the coverage. It just covers them if there's a burn down. You're not protected at all. Yeah, so I like the idea of a high deductible. And now, Laura, you've pointed out the other benefit. If you don't have claims and you're not doing this, your cost goes down. That's why I think that's why I've been at the Tacoma FI meetup a couple of times, and people insure their properties around here. And I guess I never really put that together. My single family house is $310 a year. My duplexes are around $400 to $450. Triplex is $700, fourplex is $900. Fourplex is going to go down when I move out, because right now I'm being required to insure my personal stuff. Most people don't realize that when you live somewhere, you pay more insurance than when it's a rental. The other thing I didn't touch on insurance is I require in my leases that my tenants have renters insurance. I do not care if they have renters insurance. I don't check or verify. It's in the lease, so that if they have a claim, I get to go to the lease and say, you have a claim, it's your issue because the lease says you were required to have this. So it's not a me problem, it's a you problem. So hopefully they have it, but I'm not their parent. I'm not going to go and check.
Right. I think we missed a question from Jared Franklin. I didn't hear you ask this one. It says,
before you get to it, I want to say thank you, Dan Caruso, for the super chat. It's much appreciated. Love listening to you both. A lot of good info. I appreciate that very much. I actually like to listen to Millennial Mike too. But now go ahead. And who has the question? So I can try.
Jared Franklin says, I'm 31. I get why you don't want to sell, but in my shoes, I want to scale long term. Should I consider selling if I have lots of equity and the cash flow is on one of my properties? Did you read that one?
I did, and I answered it in conjunction with the question of, do you recycle cash flow or capital? So that was a great question, Jared. I think you're more in the lines of Millennial Mike, who has recycled capital to grow his portfolio faster. That doesn't mean it's going to grow the cash flow faster. Now, if you sold and you have all this equity, right, or you sell and you have this cash now because you lose the asset, you no longer have the cash flow. Are you confident in your ability to put that money to work somewhere else and actually get a better return? If you have a system and you have properties and you know you're going to get your offer accepted, maybe. Kind of like taking money out of a 401k. I don't tell people to start with that. First, second, maybe third deal, I wouldn't do that. But once you have your systems down, you know the basics, you have confidence in your ability to get a return. I emptied my retirement account out and put the money to work in real estate. So, good question. In Almafid, infinite banking just seems like a scam. I can't prove it, but it just seems like it's way too complex for a little bit of gain. Actually, there are people who are doing it successfully, so it has to be something that works. I'm kind of with you, Almafid, on it's not something I have the bandwidth to learn. Kind of like I watch Stephan. I really liked his older stuff more so than his newer stuff, but I watch his stuff, right? He's every now and then he does a really good come to basics kind of video. Still good, just like his 2017, 2018 content. And he's really into credit card churning and points and all that kind of stuff. And I have one credit card for my business, my personal, everything is one credit card, cash back. Keep it simple, the KISS principle. I'm not benefiting as much as somebody who really puts the time and energy and effort into having the right credit cards with the right return and going for the right point system and using travel and whatever your thing is. But instead of focusing on that, I focused on buy and hold real estate, one rental at a time, increasing cash flow, financial freedom. So How creative are you with credit cards, Mike?
Not at all. A lot of people, there's actually a few people who are in my my Gary, Indiana group chat that I have with about 12 other military law enforcement dudes. And some of those guys churn credit cards. I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. So it's got a $500 yearly fee. It's expensive, but it has a $350 travel credit. So if you travel, you get $350 back credited. So it's really a $150 fee. I haven't paid for a flight in 5 years. I run all of my expenses through that card, all of them. And I just rack up points. The points can be used for any flight. There's no blackout dates or anything like that. So I haven't paid for a flight in years. I've freaking gone all over the place recently. Went to California, went to Florida. Matt flew me out to New Hampshire, so I can't take credit for that one. But yeah, so that's about the extent of what I do. That, and I have my Costco card. My Costco gas card, gives me 4% cash back on gas. So I'm pretty basic when it comes to credit cards in that, but I do recommend using them, because if I was going to spend all that money anyways, I always talk about myself as a recovering Dave Ramsey addict, afraid of credit cards, right? That's how I grew up, afraid of credit cards. They're bad for you, right? And Dave will go through all these studies, and in the studies he'll say, 84% of people who use credit cards for points lose money. Well, yeah, 84% of people do. I believe it. But what about the other 16%? What about those people? What about the ones who actually make money off it? Well, those are the ones who are actually disciplined and smart and don't let the little piece of plastic encourage them to spend additional money. So like I'm telling my brother, I want to get a credit card. And in order to build his discipline, all he's going to spend it on is gas. Doesn't matter if you got a card or cash, you're going to buy the same amount of gas no matter what. You're buying the gas for your car. So I think they're smart. I've never seen an uptick in my spending, and I save a lot of money in either cash back or free flights.
Did you see people explain what MWO is? I much prefer being the MWO bros instead of the crash bros. Make work optional.
Oh, yeah, buddy. I like it. MWO.
I like it. I wouldn't put it together because I was thinking real estate acronyms, not life acronyms. I like it.
I went with Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but that's Modern Warfare 2, so MW2, but that's just because I'm a nerd. So, well, I guess you are too, because if it had been a World of Warcraft reference, you would have picked up. If it was LFG, I'd be like, I'm always looking for a group, bro.
Right, exactly. LFM. So Dividend Dave asks, Mike, how long do your vacant properties take to get occupied by tenants once purchased?
Good question. I have not had a problem getting anything rented out within just a few weeks. The longest I've had was 6 weeks, and that was a property that I closed on like November 29th, 2021. So it was the worst time of year to be looking, because I was looking in the month of December, and I still got somebody in there halfway through January. Other than that, 3 to 4 weeks, usually it goes pretty quickly. My property managers do a pretty good job. So, and then here on the one that I house hack here in Seattle, I have never in 4+ years even had a day where it was vacant. Always I've had the current tenant is there, like, hey, August is going to be my last month. Perfect. Sounds good. So they paid for the month of August, and then they're out halfway through August. And I let them know, hey, if you're okay with me showing this, I'll get it rented to somebody and I'll get them moved in. I'll cash you back some of your money for August. And every single time I have been able to cash them back some of their final month and get somebody new in paying a higher monthly rate, prorated for that month, because it's so popular in the city that I live in, and where I live is so nice. Like not one single day of vacancy and the 3 turnovers I've had here.
I have a very similar experience here in Washington. I'm not sure if it's time of year. I try to renew leases in the winter. I've had a couple in the summer. They went really quick. My one in December, I had 4 days to do the whole. I had flooring, paint, had to be done. Everything had to be done in 4 days between tenants. One moved out the day after Christmas, and the other one was scheduled to go in January 1st. Alex Matt responds to Dividend Dave and all that are hider asking if everybody's liked the video yet, because every time you like the video, an angel gets its wings. Alex says, no, I haven't liked the live stream yet. Is it mandatory? No, it is not mandatory.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, it is, dude. We are going to make fun of you. What's your name? Alex? A lame name. Loser.
He doesn't like angels.
You better like the freaking video, dude. We're going to flame you here in the chat. Everybody jump on this guy. Seriously, dog pile. Look at this picture. Glasses? I'm not wearing mine, so I feel bad making fun of him if he doesn't know that I wear them. But what a loser, dude. Like the video.
I wonder how many times I've watched a live stream and I didn't hit the like because I was watching on my phone, and you have to close down the chat, hit the like, open up the chat. And that's a lot. Like, you make a YouTube channel, you make some videos. I've seen you edit. So I know you make a 10-minute video and there goes 4 hours of your life because you got the B-roll and the sound and you're putting it all spliced together. I edit some. I edited a few that don't work really well on YouTube where you talk to yourself. And then the amount of time it takes to hit the like button is too much energy. I totally get it.
Bro,
So
people don't understand the full-time job that Dion, the lazy man, has in doing YouTube stuff, like in making videos and in being a guest on other people's stuff and in responding to comments and to giving away free hours of his life so that you guys can win a dice roll. So you can spend 55 minutes getting free real estate advice at the normal cost of $5,000 an hour, prorated at 55 minutes for free. So it's non-taxable. Like, you don't understand how much freaking time and effort this person and Zuber and the lumberjack and put into trying to help people, and not liking a video, what 1/10 of a second to go, boop, sweet, leaving a comment. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. That's why people like Dividend Dave and Robert Farinelli and CJ Underwood and like all the people here and Laura Samaniego. And I can't even thank all the people enough who are here. But Matthew Paris, who else is always here? Like, people who are here and All Nighter Hider, my boy. They watch this, they like it, they share it, they comment on it. That means a lot because, like, you don't understand. There's so much time. I could be doing something different. Like, we don't actually have to be here providing either entertainment or information. We could be doing something else. We choose to do this because we enjoy helping people and we like to see other people be successful. And we also like to talk about World of Warcraft, and this gives us an excuse to do that. But other than that, yeah, we appreciate the people out there who appreciate us. Thank you.
So, I picked Tuesdays to do the live streams as a form of self-sacrifice because, this is Tuesdays is when WoW resets, right? Every week, it's raid night. Right. So I'm literally missing raid night every Tuesday to be here. The importance of live streams, I'm not sure if people understand. Kind of like Jay Smith always asking when the prices are going to come down on the courses. Yes, they're going to go up. They are underpriced now. I don't have courses. I don't know how courses. I participate in other people's courses because I'm way too lazy to make my own. But here's why the live streams are important to me and why I still watch live streams. I watch, Zuber's. I'm hoping he starts them up again because he's not doing Saturdays anymore. I watch Matt's. I'm trying to get you to do yours. The idea is to learn what an investor keeps in their mind. Like, as an investor, we can all GTS. We can go to Google, find out what's better, right now, what it rates, how would you invest, and find out things. But when you're an investor, you're not always going to have time to look things up. You're going to see a listing, and you have minutes to get a hold of your agent, to get a hold of your lender, to figure out if that's the neighborhood you want, to figure out if the numbers work, to get your letter of pre-qualification, to get your offer docu-signed and sent off. So the things I want to learn as a content consumer is, what do these people keep in top of mind awareness to where when we get a question, most of these we've been able to go, hey, it's a great question. Here's my answer, because these are the things that actually matter to an investor. Every now and then you're going to get a question, something like, in a very specific tax situation, which is the best way to structure this deal. That is not something we would keep in mental awareness. We would go, I have a couple of options. Let me go online and research what is the best tax option. And then let me talk to a tax pro. So I know that as an investor, I need to keep things in mind, like, how do you calculate yield? How do you formulate a rent box? How do you understand which strategy is working in an area? How do you adjust your strategy based on the evidence that you find in that area? Like, all of those things come out in live streams. I like making a 10-minute video where I research something and I try to get a point across, but it's not answering a question in real time with information I had in my head. So. And yes, Laura talks about, she was able to get it reduced. I read it wrong the first time. You were right. It says came down, and your person thought you were crazy by raising. My person thinks I'm crazy too when I say I want the deductible as high as possible. I'm not sure if there's some kind of award they get or upselling compensation if they sell a better product with a lower deductible because your payment's higher, however it works. But I've had to be kind of forceful and say, no, I want the 10,000 deductible when possible. And sometimes I've had to settle for the 5.
Well, just think about it, Dion. It's the same thing that we do with monthly cash flow. How do they make money? They make money on their monthly payment.
Right.
So they want to collect the highest monthly payment from you that they can. And they're allowed to collect the higher monthly payment if you have a lower deductible, because then they're going to have to pay out earlier. They know just as much as we do that the odds they're ever going to pay out are tiny. Even if you file a claim, they're going to reject that crap half the time. So what they want to do is collect the biggest monthly payment they can. So if you're going to threaten them with hey, I want a higher deductible and a lower monthly payment, they're like, bro, I ain't making as much money off you. So that's why they're going to resist. This is a great reason why you should not take financial advice from insurance people, or from people in a bank, or from anybody who has like a financial incentive. I'm going to go off on a wild tangent here, but man, I love the question from ladies. So, what do you think of therapy? Like, I don't think going to talk about your feelings with someone who's financially incentivized to keep you coming back is going to help. I'm all for talking to people about your things you struggle with. I see a lot of death, you got to talk about that. But I joke about it with the fellas, but like, people who have a financial incentive to give you bad advice, don't listen to these people. Like, they make money off of you. Their opinion it's corrupted, or it's influenced. Talk to somebody who's actually on your team.
So here is something I would write down if I was watching this video right now. It's not PC. I'm not going to cuss. So you don't have to tell the kids to go away, but insurance, strippers, financial advisors, military recruiters are all people that make money by selling a product the customer doesn't understand. Justin, howdy. I watch another live stream that every night he makes a poll that sticks to the bottom of the chat, and he basically asks in different ways if they have hit the like button. Yes, no. Nice. That's tech above my head. I need a 10-year-old to come teach me how to do that. It helps to remind me to click on it all the time. Nice. I like Graham Stephan does a thing where, thanks for hitting the like button. Here's a picture of a kitten or something. My roommate's
Thanks for hitting the like button. Here's a picture of an inert NFDD, noise flash diversionary device. So there's a flashbang. That's what you got. Oh, and here's a picture of my son drawing a boat. There you go.
Nice.
There you go. He won a ship drawing contest. So you're welcome. Thanks for liking the video. Appreciate you.
I think it was Amafid that I saw it. I literally don't think, no, it's Wombat Striker. Howdy. I don't think I've ever paid interest on a credit card, but I have gotten rewards. Just only spend what you can afford, and set up an auto payment. Here's a tweak to that Wombat Striker. And if I was okay with taking time, I would actually show you the picture. I have the picture on my phone because I took a screenshot. My credit score dropped 24 points because the day of the month that they checked my credit card, I normally pay it off every day. I have memory issues, and even an automatic payment, I don't want to make sure that I have to have enough money in an account, whatever, because sometimes if I'm doing something with a rental, credit card might have $11,000 on it or something. So every single day I pay the credit card off. I open up the banking app. I use the same bank for the credit card as the checking account, so I pay it off. There was one day where my credit dropped because it said you have an average balance of $30, but today it was $200. So your credit score dropped 24 points by having $200 on a credit card. I pay it off every day. So to me, that was more important than paying it off monthly, because they're not going to go, how much of a balance did you carry from one month to the next? It was the day we checked it, what was the balance on the card? Right. So only a little tweak I would give to that.
Yeah, I literally pay mine off multiple times a week. Just like usually at night when I'm laying in bed, looking at my bank accounts every night because I'm just greedy with money like that. I'm paying it off.
And I do appreciate Jay Smith, the comment of the obligatory, is Lumberjack going to be lowering the price of the course? We have to have our memes.
Yeah, he says, Jay Smith, the Lumberjack should change his name to Lumberjacking People's Money. Bro, tell me you're a broke boy who's never going to invest without telling me you're a broke boy who's never going to invest. You'd say you want Zuber's course to be cheaper. You say you want Lumberjack's course to be cheaper. I'm going to call Matt after this and say that if any Jay Smith ever tries to buy his course, the cost doubles immediately, and you're getting charged interest. Unreal. Have you looked at what like Pace Morby charges for his course? $17,000. What Pace Morby charges? You know what Grant Cardone charges? $20,000. The Lumberjack, I think it's $997 or $995 or something like that. Yeah, and a boot camp was like $500. Like, that is unbelievably inexpensive for the level of quality that you're actually getting out of that course. Unbelievably inexpensive. Zuber's course, I don't know why he doesn't have it more expensive. He just keeps knocking it $50 up every 6 months. But same thing with him. I don't know why your course is so inexpensive. You go look at Meet Kevin or Grant. Meet Kevin has like 12 courses, and like the cheapest one's like $1,000. He might have like one starter course for $100 to get you hooked. Like this is pretty much the industry standard.
James J, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. What was your single largest unforeseen expense? For me, it was marriage. I'm going to have a real answer too. Because marriage, I would have to pluralize because it is the first step to divorce. But biggest unforeseen expense, I'm assuming the question is associated with real estate. Mike, largest unforeseen expense
That I've ever had in my entire portfolio, or
let's go with real estate. Because you've also been divorced. I know that.
I was going to say, maybe, divorce. Yeah, for sure, bro. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
I'm good at keeping custody of kids and possession of houses through a divorce, but I'm not good at keeping a woman around. Yeah. So 5 people just went, wait, Dion's straight?
Yeah. The most expensive unplanned expense that I had was a plumbing issue. There was an issue. They were trying to rod out a line that went all the way out to the city main, and there was some contention over whether or not the city was going to have to repair it or we were going to have to repair it, and it ended up falling on us, and it was $4,500 unplanned. And I got that house inspected. I did not get the sewer line rotted, and I should have. And most of the time I do. In fact, I remember wondering, why didn't I? And I literally just think I forgot to check the box, forgot to specifically request it, because I always get it checked for that exact. And it happened to be the one I didn't. What are the odds, So, and honestly, though, even if I hadn't, I probably still would have bought the house even with a known issue. But at least it would have been unplanned, and it would have been the answer to this question.
So for me, that's a hard one to answer because I really haven't had any big unforeseen expenses. I purchased a property knowing that it was going to need a roof. I factored that in the cost to acquire portion. Repairs and maintenance, broken pipes, backed up septic, whatever cost. Part of gross rents is set aside, and I've never had to dip into my own money or actually into the reserves. Cash flow has always handled that. I do 10% for repairs and maintenance, 5% for vacancies. So technically 15% of gross rents is set aside to pay for those kind of things. And since it's always been within the threshold of that amount, I don't see those as unforeseen expenses. So the closest I could come to a largest unforeseen expense, without sarcasm, and I know that people are happily married. You are the unique couple, but I made an offer on a property. I paid for the appraisal, and I paid for the inspection, and I didn't close on the property. I've only done that once. I have made offers, had them accepted, went and looked and backed out now because it was more work than I wanted to do without doing an appraisal or an inspection. You can do that without paying for the inspection. An inspection period doesn't mean you have to have an inspection. It means you have that much time to make up your mind. But at the time, it was $600 or $700 for the appraisal, $500 or $600 for the inspection. So I was out at least $1,100. And I didn't close on the deal because it appraised $50,000 low, and it had about $30,000 to $50,000 worth of water damage and all the joists being rotted from a persistent leak over years. So I pulled out. So technically at that time, I would call that $1,100 an unexpected expense. But now I look at it and I go, that's the best $1,100 I probably spent, because I avoided purchasing something that was overpriced, because it did track that $50,000 was lower appraisal, actually kind of matched the area. This was the one where the tenants weren't paying as much rent as their lease said because their deposits were in the rent. I was learning that I didn't know to use area average rent. I was going off of lease amounts. So that was probably my biggest expense. As I'm thinking through, because top of mind awareness, this is not something we've had to keep as in top of mind awareness. My first year was also my actual largest expense. I lost about $6,000 renting out because I wasn't running it like a business, didn't have a lease, rented to a friend, let late rent become never rent. So that would be the unexpected expense. But now I kind of think I expect that in the first year. That's why I tell people, if you're going to use a home equity line of credit or a refinance or take money out of your retirement account or do all these things, make sure you have your systems in place and confidence in your ability to get your return. Don't do it as a starting out procedure, because your first couple of deals is going to be when you make your mistakes. I made almost all my mistakes on that first property. Even though it was a house I owned and I moved out of, I still made all those mistakes. The beginning is when we tend to lose the most amount of money. So I think that's when. REI Stoners, thank you for the chat. So hope to see you at the next Tacoma FI. I believe I'm there. It's going to be a Tuesday. So I have to figure out when Matt's time frame is. And the BiggerPockets stuff is on Thursdays. So the teaching assistant stuff for their boot camp.
Is that a virtual boot camp? Or are you actually physically going in person?
No. It's so I can't, I'm under an NDA where I can't share exactly like details, but so I can't share the
You
course.
can't even say if it's virtual or in person.
I can say everything that's on the website. And so I'm trying to get my mind straight because my memory issues to make sure I only say what's on the website because they're very smart, very proprietary. It's a huge business. It's not run like the way I would do it as a small business. It's 10 weeks long. Ashley Kerr and another gentleman whose name I don't remember, but I will learn it going through the course, are the hosts. So they put out weekly content that goes to the 10 modules that go for the 10 weeks. And then the teaching assistant does a Zoom where the students, the participants come in and they go, okay, we have this weekly content. They can interact with Ashley and all that, but then I get the specific real estate questions based on that week's content. And then I generally, at the end of that period, I turn it into kind of an open format like this. But it's more specifically tailored to the content of each of those weeks. Hopefully all that made sense as I was trying to filter. Laura, thank you. I do appreciate you guys so much. I have saved money and I have been able to increase my cash flow by listening to you. The least I can do is hit the like. So grateful. Thank you. Much appreciated. And you've done more than hit the like. I've seen super chats from you. So thank you very much, Laura.
She is another one who's just here on everybody's channel all the time, always being supportive. So we literally couldn't ask for anything more than that.
We went to lunch when I was in Florida. So if you go and you see Mark, I suggest getting together. Laura had the one rental at a time book, like looks like mine, underlined, highlighted, right. Paper clips, and like these are the sections to go back to. And I mean, this is information that you can it's actionable. All the content that we're sharing, you're probably not going to use all of my strategy, but you might use the binder strategy. You might use how I use multiple agents. You might use like something that I do in whatever format they're using. They might go at a distance and use some of what you do and like take a little bit from everybody, put it together in what works. And then Chris, howdy, do you insure for replacement, loan amount, or appraised value? Not appraised value, actual replacement cost. So the appraised value is what it was when you purchased it. A couple of years later, I will increase the cost, the insurance to cover whatever it would cost to replace the building currently, which is a rough estimate, but that's the value. If you go off loan amount, that means that if it burns down, they pay the mortgage off. You have nothing to rebuild your property with. It's what's required because the lender doesn't care if you're made whole. They want to make sure their loan is covered. And I see my chat moved again. Chris, great video, missed most of it. See you in Futureland on probably double speed. I sound like a chipmunk. Appreciate that. Hopefully I got your question in time for you, Chris, there. I saw Matthew. I open a new 0% cards with sign-on bonuses to purchase large ticket items at least once a year, then never look at the card again after it's paid off. My concern with that is always that there's some remaining amount that gets reported. Home Depot is notorious for that. Like a $2.30 charge from something you did 6 months ago, they report it to credit. No problem. Happy to support these guys. Both have awesome channels and pass along tons of bio info. Thank you, James J. Rob, question. Is there a ratio of leverage that is optimal to make sure income generate is kept tax-free based on depreciation? You want to answer that one first, Mike?
That's actually a relatively complex question, but that's pretty highbrow. Like that's pretty high. That's probably a really good question for the lumberjack who's better at math and stuff like that, because there probably actually is. There probably is some golden ratio of leverage to income to help make sure that you never get anything that's like above taking or that you'd be able to write it all off. The problem is I have never had to pay taxes on any of my rental income. So it's not really a conversation I've had to have yet. If I get to the point where I own properties long enough, I start to run out of depreciation, and long enough that they make so much versus what I can write off on interest, then I'll probably start having that conversation. But I just haven't had to have it yet. So that's a really good question. I would save that for the Lumberjack Sunday morning live stream.
Yeah, Sunday morning, 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern. Lumberjack's the math guy whenever it comes to that. And I guarantee that there is an equation where you can optimize that. But here would be my answer. Don't. Like, ask the question, find out the answer. I would never make a decision based on trying to have an expense to avoid taxes. The expense to avoid taxes is always much more than the amount you're going to save in taxes. The idea is, if you have a tax benefit, like depreciation or a write-off, you use it. But don't make a decision to get a write-off to have a tax benefit. I look forward to ending depreciation schedules, having mortgages paid off, and having rents increase so much that I have to pay taxes. Like, that's a good thing. The amount of money you're making to actually have to pay taxes, I share real numbers. My portfolio is still small enough to let you know I share real numbers. After setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, after paying principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, last year on my taxes that I'm currently getting information together on, making sure my spreadsheet is up to date, $203,000 in profit. I will be carrying forward a loss. So when I look at, is there a maximum amount of leverage to get the best benefit? I don't look at depreciation schedules and I don't look at taxes. What I'm looking at is potential for growth. So during the growth phase, when you're in Millennial Mike's phase, where you're adding rentals and you're working on getting on financial freedom, and you're probably a little over halfway there. You've been doing this, what, 4 or 5 years now? 2018 you started?
This is my 4th year going into year 5.
That's right. So by 10, you'll have much more cash flow than I did, because I started from a really, I think, worse position. And you're making more and you have a better investing strategy at distance. Like, I'll totally admit that you're going to kill it better. But when you're growing, I think hovering around 70% loan to value on your entire portfolio is a good strategy. You have a big enough buffer to where you can have an exit strategy if you need to, without having to write a check if something changed and you got a massive health concern and you just can't do this anymore, whatever the change is. But you have enough leverage to where you're getting an amplified effect on the appreciation and principal paydown aspect of the 4 ways that real estate pays you. First is taxes, which was the basis of the question. Second is cash flow. Third is appreciation. Fourth is principal paydown. So it's pay you in 4 ways. The more leverage you have, the more amplified those sources are. But I wouldn't want to be too levered, because then you can run into an issue where rents could drop in your local market where you invest. You could have an HOA expense that was unexpected. You could have something that costs you more money than you were planning, and you want to have that levered position to be able to take out a home equity line of credit, cash out refinance, sell to move equity, whatever you're going to do, have those options. When you get closer to retirement and you're not going to have a W-2 anymore at all, my goal for levered went from 70% to 50%, and I'm at 40. So my next purchase, I'm probably going to be a little more levered than I might actually finally use my VA loan and get closer to 50% leverage, because I want the stability of having a better equity position. I still want the benefits of appreciation and pay down on more than what I invested, but I want that stable position. So there's a kind of a chronology to your investing, and when you're in growth phase, and when you're in stabilization phase, and when you're in and goof off all the time phase, where you might grow just because the money's piling up. That's how I look at my levered position, more so than the tax benefits. But Matt will probably actually have a statistical, without writing it down, just go, yep, these are the things you do, and this is how it works. So great question for him. Nice. I see Dividend Dave. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog. Exactly, says the guy who works in the tax industry. So there are some industries where currently I think it's a safe bet to get a CDL and a welder certificate and a plumber's or an HVAC technician's. Right. Eventually, automated trucks will be a thing. They're going to impact over the road drivers first. So Tom, find a local job. That's 10, 20 years down the road. But eventually, you should not be working then, but your kids might. Eventually, local drivers can be impacted by automated trucks, autonomous trucks, not automated. Certain things like HVAC technicians, I don't think we're at the point of robotics going and replacing that. But for the last 15 years, every coding school on the planet said, this is the safest industry. Computers can't code. We're going to be coding forever. And now Chat GDP or whatever it's called comes out that can do art and code. And as that improves, that's an entire industry that can shift and that job goes away. So you should be planning on things that you can't foresee, right? I invest like I plan on rents coming down 50%, even though in my lifespan and almost twice my lifespan, we have never seen market-wide rents go down in a 5-year period. There are local markets that drop if, around Detroit, the car manufacturers move away, or Silicon Valley, the dot-com crash hits it. So local markets can be impacted. So I've invested with several economic drivers around like a base, a port, a college. So there's several things that have to be impacted. I diversify my tenant base. Like I'm literally building a portfolio, planning on a recession and planning on things that we can't anticipate. And you're probably thinking the same thing, Dave. You work in the tax industry. Did you see the proposed bill on it's not a flat tax, which would be great, which would also shut down the IRS, but the one they were talking about is a consumption tax, getting away from a federal income tax and literally having a consumption tax. With a divided government, very, very unlikely to go through. I would love to see that. You want to tax the rich, tax the people that are spending more money. But it would shut down the IRS. And then people in your field working in the tax industry, there's your black swan that could change what you need to do. CJ Underwood, someone has to flip the burgers. Very true.
I started at McDonald's, 14 years old. I worked there. You can have a job at 14 in North Dakota.
Nice. I think the closest I came to that was I worked in a donut store when I was 12. 4 to 7 in the morning before school, go in, make the guy ran a roach coach. So I made the donuts for the truck that would go on roach. That's what do you call it? What do you call a truck that goes around and sells food? There's like a real term for it.
The Schwans.
The Schwans. They actually sell, right. Yeah. Wandering Doc. I have no interest in losing what I had worked hard for, so I'll have my children in a place like Colombia or Peru or Estonia where they can't get to my US-based assets. I must have missed something here.
Yeah, he had another comment above it, a couple of them. First, he laughed at Jay Smith for making fun of me. Which
I like Jay Smith's humor. He shows up every time and gets us all laughing. So I appreciate it.
I'm good. I'll take the hate. But yeah, I think Wandering Doc's comment was if these. Oh no, that was about divorce.
Yep.
Yeah,
if these guys are kinder than me, I have more patience than I. A divorce. That's all I need to know about marriage in the United States. The thing to be very clear on, and this is the only non-real estate thing I'll say, is it takes two to mess up a marriage. I will own every one of the mistakes I made. So every time I say a joke about marriage, it's also about me. And then I think our chat's caught up here. There was somebody that got their first card from Mike. Did you see that? Oh, here it is. Josh. Howdy. I'm excited to get my first card from Zuber. My third rental property closes beginning of March. Congratulations. Nice. So you're under contract now, closing in March.
Yeah, congrats, dude. That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm catching up. Yeah, that's a big accomplishment. I got 4 over here. It was before he ever did the first one. I got my first one before, but yeah, I got 4. Build a collection.
Here was a question, and just as my chat moved, have you guys ever looked into off-market listings? If so, how's the experience been?
Oh, yeah.
I'll answer first, and then I'll let you follow because I've had you go first on every one.
Sure.
I've done nothing off-market because the wholesalers I've met, and so if you're a wholesaler that you've met me, I'm sorry, this is about you. They're insane. And they have deals that suck so much, they're too embarrassed to put them on the MLS. So they bring them to me because they think I'm stupid and that I'm going to overpay for a property. There are off-market deals that are great. Cody and Christian, they develop a relationship to learn from somebody, and then eventually somehow a sale happens. So definitely learn their strategy. I haven't done off-market, not just because the wholesalers that bring me deals are crazy, but because I'm lazy. I was working full-time. I was raising 3 kids. I set up auto searches on the MLS. I had a really simple, very, very boring, very lazy way of finding properties. There are some creative ways to find off-market deals, and I think some of them are great. What has been your experience, Mike?
Yeah. So Peter Navarro asked that question. He's another person who's here all the time in the chat. So thanks for being here and thanks for always supporting us, liking the video. And then he followed up with chat GPT, find me a good deal. So yeah, if that if that can happen, we'll replace wholesalers too. But yes, off-market deals are fantastic. They're wonderful. There's lots of different ways to get them. I have purchased multiple off-market deals. And so for those of you who are here for Dion, I'm happy for you. If you do want to know more about my content, every single house that I've purchased, I did a video on that house, how I found it, how I funded it, how I bought it, what the numbers were. I break it all down so everybody can see it. So I have bought from a wholesaler. It's my most recent deal. It's my best deal, like an insane cash on cash return, BRRRR strategy project. I got all my money back and it cash flows. I bought from a turnkey provider. That was my first out of state deal, technically off market. It didn't go to the MLS. There was no real estate agents that were involved. It was direct owner to buyer. I bought 2 properties seller financed from an individual who owned about 500 units and he wanted to sell 50. And so I got those seller financing. I made that connection through my property manager who managed some stuff for him. So why would I do these off-market deals? Typically, there's lots of good reasons. Number one, you might not have the real estate commissions. You might be getting a cheaper product. You might have the option to do seller financing where you get preferential lending terms. I highly recommend it. Doesn't mean that there isn't good stuff on the MLS because I've also bought off the MLS. My original house hack, 3 properties I purchased out in Gary came straight from the MLS. But you just need, the more options you have, the more tools in your tool belt, the better a craftsman that you're going to be. So yes, off-market deal is something that Dion should be, you should be following up with that. It doesn't have to come from a wholesaler. You know, Dion doesn't use a property manager, but if he did, I send my property manager this text message once a month. Hey, do you have any current owners who are looking to sell any of their properties or get out of the game? Can I talk to them? And I've only gotten the answer back that I could talk to them once, but and then I got 2 from that guy, but I'll get another one. So you need to ask everybody, I'm doing this new strategy where every single property that I like, I'm writing down the information on it. I call the listing agent directly. Tell me about the property. Let me know about it. What's up with this thing? Oh, tell me. So the seller, do they live in the property? They don't. Is it a rental? Oh, so they're an investor. What else do they own? What else might they sell? And I had somebody who didn't even want to sell an 18-unit portfolio asked to get on a call with me and Matt the Lumberjack so we could try to structure a deal for an 18-unit portfolio of single-family homes, just because I keep asking the questions and keep asking about the owner and then telling the owner I'd be interested to buy at some point. And even though this isn't for sale, now we're having a conversation about terms that might lead to a transaction on a deal. So yeah, it comes down to how much you network. But I promise you're going to get that first seller finance deal, that first off-market deal, and you're going to be like, oh, fudge. I've been missing out here for a little while.
So there's a question here from Joan. Since I'm closing on my first property this month, when do you recommend I reach out to a local real estate CPA to talk about how to keep my books for the year? So I put my email in the chat, and feel free to reach out to me. This is to anybody watching or in Futureland. Hello, Futureland. I have a spreadsheet that my CPA kind of set up for me. So it has the columns that they require, where the money was spent at, the date it was spent, the amount of the purchase, the amount of the tax, because the amount of the purchase and the tax are different types of write-offs that the CPA will understand. You don't need to. The property that it was assigned to, and then a note section. You want to define what you're purchasing, not just an amount, because if it says Lowe's $234, that could be a dishwasher or tools. Some write-offs are immediate. Some are scheduled depreciation. Some are amortized depreciation. You don't need to know anything about that I'm talking about right now, because I don't. But you put the information under the spreadsheet, keep all of the receipts. Some CPAs will want you to keep, make sure you have trackable data. So you're not giving cash to someone else to use their credit card. You're actually using a card that belongs to you. So you have access to the credit card statements, your bank statements, your debit card statements, however you're paying for it. Zelle, PayPal, whatever. Keep as much detailed record as you can. But if you reach out to me, I will send you my spreadsheet. And whenever you do find a CPA, which I recommend is the second you own a rental, so you're closing soon, I'd be contacting them now. There are different types of depreciation. There are different types of write-offs, and we don't need to know any of how that works. Just like everybody's like, oh, I'm going to put a roof on my building. There's there's the edging, there's the California weave, there's all these things about roofing that I don't want to know, because I hire a pro to go up there and do that, who's insured, licensed, experienced, trained, right, to get it done right. Taxes are the same, 87,000 pages, right? That's something like that. It's 8,700 pages, whatever it is. It's a huge tax code. I've never read a sentence of the tax code. I'm familiar with a couple like the IRS 121 rule. Never looked at it. I know what it does. I know that depreciation benefits me. I've never looked at how it works. So I recommend finding a CPA sooner than later and use my spreadsheet. You can even send a spreadsheet to your CPA and say, is there any more data that you would like me to track? Because this was a spreadsheet sent to me by my guy who has a specific way of doing it, and yours might be different. But I'm happy to share that spreadsheet. And if you email me and I don't answer you within 2 days, I get a few emails, just send it again. I won't be offended. And sometimes it goes to spam, so I check my spam like once a week. Yeah, good question. And again, congratulations. Did I see a super chat from Adam? Howdy. I know it, Adam Calhoun. I don't know if it's you though. Hey guys, I want to thank both of you for introducing me to Turnkey. I will be in Gary, Indiana on Friday, talking with OG to learn more about it. Nice.
Olson Group.
Olson Group. Cool.
Turnkey operators out there. That's where I bought my first house, was from them in Gary. And Mark bought many, and Caleb bought many. Turnkey providers are a unique service. They do a good job. The downside with the Olson Group is they started to suffer from success. They got so popular that people started bidding up their houses. But they are good dudes. They're honest dudes. If you watch my video on my first one, I talk about there was a misunderstanding, miscommunication about a roof being fixed or not, that they had made it an error. They fixed it for me for free, brand new roof, no cost to me, without even asking a question about it, because they felt bad they'd made a mistake. And so they're good dudes. I couldn't recommend them more highly.
Awesome. I wonder why I haven't reached out to you and said, hey, I've got all this money. How do I put it to work in Gary?
I'm just saying, Dion, we can make it happen. I keep
we almost did. We looked at that triplex or
biplex
together.
Biplex, yeah.
So came this close.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple people here. Rob, Cody. First couple of years suck. Absolutely agree. For 2 years, all I did was save. Lost money on my first rental the first year, saved from work and side hustle. And it was 2 years before I actually did anything actionable. That sucks. Feels like it takes forever. But it's really hard to explain the way everything changes after the income snowball starts to kick in. When the money piles up and you don't have to work overtime or sell something of your own to get that, it's crazy. Justin, howdy. The problem with the consumption tax is that the lower income people spend a larger portion of their income on necessities. It would have to be progressive depending on the item. True, the lower income people would also have more of their money back because earned income is taxed the most. So there is a problem with it. I'm sure, like I said, we have a divided government. The idea, I would much prefer just a flat tax, 10% on everything, 10% on income, 10% on expenses, just 10%. It's the IRS that's the killer. And this is not a political channel because I think
that universally everybody hates. Yeah, exactly. Nobody, red or blue, nobody likes the IRS.
Make sure we're not missing any questions here.
Well, Zach Hayes says he's been listening the entire time, working on his rehab. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Zach Hayes. Thanks, my man.
Dividend Dave, Dion could buy Gary, Indiana, and then rename it Dion, Indiana, which is actually really funny. Gary Perkins, I need to apologize. In high school, every time I got caught somewhere, I had your ID. And you probably got called to the office a dozen times for stuff that I did. So Gary holds a special name purpose for me. So I probably wouldn't change the name of Gary, Indiana. That's funny. So, all right. What's up, Dion? Can I get the other guy's YouTube channel? So my plan actually was to get a live going on the other guy's YouTube channel. This is Millennial Mike. So Millennial Mike right here on YouTube. Maybe you could put a link in that people could just click.
Oh yeah, sure.
To find his channel. I definitely recommend subscribing. Mike, house hacks in a high cost of living area, a strategy that I also do. And then he invests at a distance, and he has a great knowledge base on how to invest out of state, how to find property managers, how to develop your team, how to pick a market, all the things that I haven't done. And someday we're going to do a video where we kind of debate the pros and cons of both of our strategies.
I think you actually have to make me a moderator for me to put a link in there. Yeah, I'm not. I am on Matt's channel. But
block from channel. Here it is. Got it.
Yeah, there it is, right there. promote to mod.
Right. Now you can do links.
Promote to GM.
There you go. All right.
There you go. Yeah.
I like the IRS. They keep me employed. Right. I like the IRS as far as passive income goes. I like that we have an incentive tax system that says invest in things so you don't have to pay taxes. I don't like the IRS that I'm still going to have to write a check for last year for my W-2 income, even though I only worked 6 months out of the year. Wandering Doc. Dion, I linked your YouTube video to a bunch of radiologists stressed out about working full-time and they invest in the stock market. They poo-pooed it like always and claim you got lucky. Right. Anytime it comes up in like the Choose FI groups, the money guys groups, it's all stocks. Everything is stocks. Even when you have a year where everything is down 20 to 40%, it's stocks over a long enough period of time, and the average income or the average return is blah, blah, blah. The average return for the stock market, here's a clarification that I heard on the Two Sides of Fi the other day. The return was something like 8.9% over like a 23-year period. Not per year. For the 23-year period. That was the return without any cash flow. We are not in the convincing business. I'm going to steal Matt's line for that one. We're not in the convincing business. Here's what we did. Here's how we did it. You can duplicate it. There are people right now, today, this month, in this chat, closing on deals. One in March, one soon, right? Joan, you guys, you have deals going on right now. Just got lucky is Zuber's favorite. Just call him Lucky in this chat. It's probably shut this stream down if he was doing one. Every time I purchased a property, it was a time just like now, where 80% of the people that we know were saying this is a bad time to buy. Every single year. We have the silver tsunami. So many boomers are going to retire. There's going to be a flood to the market. Interest rates are above 6% in 2018. The prices are too high. They're unsustainable. 2013, they went above 2008. Like every single year, there's a reason why you shouldn't buy. There's an eviction moratorium. Tenants don't have to pay, and you can't kick them out. Well, I mean, there's $46 billion set aside with the CARES Act to pay their rent, but sure, not a good time to buy. It never feels like the right time. And so if you run into people who are stressed because they think they're going to have to work forever, they're probably gonna. It's okay to share the information. And the best compliment you can give to me or to Mike or anybody making content here on YouTube world is to share our content. And while they probably said, no, that's too risky, they just got lucky, all of those kind of things, somebody might come and watch this live and actually say, okay, I could try this. But we're not in the convincing business. When somebody says it's too risky, I don't want to deal with tenants, toilets, or termites, they're probably not the person that should. But my tenants, toilets, and termites problems are a text message or an email. To me, the 2 hours a month it takes to make a couple $100,000 a year is so much better than 50 to 60 hours a week to pay a bunch of taxes.
People want to see you do well. They just don't want to see you do better than them. And like the crabs in the bucket pulling the other crabs down who could easily hop out, unfortunately, that's going to be your circle of friends. That's going to be your own family. So why rule number 7 for the one rental at a time rules are audit your network. As much as it sucks to say, people do want to see you be successful. But when you do something that they didn't do, when you achieve something they didn't achieve, when you make an accomplishment, it's human nature to sit there and start to think, I didn't do this. This is a direct reflection on me. I could have worked harder. I could have tried more. I could have applied myself more. But instead, I went home and I watched Netflix. Instead, I went home and I ate crappy food and I didn't go to the gym. And so, yeah, you're going to get flack over investing in real estate. Oh, real estate's bad. It's not going to work. Or stocks are the only thing. People don't want to see you do better than them because it means that they might have made a mistake. And that's not necessarily even a bad thing. I sit there and I look at Cody and Christian. I'm like, Cody bought 100+ rental units at 21 years old. Dang it. I didn't pick the most expedited method. I thought I was doing it right. And so even in me, I get that little ping of jealousy or regret. I'm like, oh, frustrated. But what changes is, for me, it's then, all right, fine. Motivation. I'm going to win in the end. I'll figure it out. I will catch up. I'll pass you. I'll be able to do just as well as you. And I'm not going to trash him or anything. I like Cody. I like Christian. I hang out with these guys. But you can look at something like that and let it be something that motivates you to be better, or you can try to tear that person down. And unfortunately, for so many people, it's easier to just tear people down, ignore it, look the other way. So you want to be a 1%er in life. You want to be the 1% of income. You want to be that one person who decides to invest. And, Grant Cardone gets flack for saying oh, anybody could be a billionaire. Well, probably not anybody, but a lot of people could be if they were willing to make the sacrifices and learn and push themselves outside of their comfort zone and struggle and claw their way to the top. But a lot of people won't. Look at Dion. He's a Marine. Less than 4% of the entire US population served in the military, and less than 1% of them were Marines. Dion's a 1%er in that capacity. It's like the elite fighting force of our country. And now he's also in the 1% in terms of income. He's in the 1% in terms of being able to retire at such a young age. You have to set yourself above other people. And it sucks because when you're at the top, everybody looks up and all they want to do is talk trash and claw you back down. And if you're not ready for that mentally, then it's not going to be fun for you. So yeah, you're going to deal with flack, but learn to deal with it and just let it bounce off of you.
There's two types of flack. The first one that everyone's identifying with right now is friends and family and coworkers are going to call you crazy. I worked at the truck driving school for the last 13 years, basically retired last year, but for 13 years, I worked at the truck driving school. Out of that entire time, even though I was reaching financial freedom, made work optional, was able to retire, two people invested. Right? A lot of the staff, about half, put money into the 401k for the match. But I have two friends, Dan, who has been on my channel. He retired in August of last year. Not that it matters, but 42 days after I did. And he did it in 4 years of investing in real estate. My other friend, Craig, is investing in real estate too. But all of the people that I worked with were pretty much calling me crazy. Why would you want to own rentals? Especially since I got demoted at the company from instructor all the way down to president of the company. They thought I had a really good job with really good pay, had control of my schedule. Why am I investing when I could just work and make really good money? So you're going to get that flack from the friends and family. Also going to get the flack that we see here on YouTube. Whenever you see a post come out about a Business Insider article where they say, look at this, Millennial Mike and how he's investing and what he's doing with his money. And here's this guy who can get his tenants to ask to raise the rent. There's literally 1,000 comment threads on Reddit on anti-work where they want to kill me in interesting ways because I'm an investor, right? I'm a horrible person because I make money off of my money instead of my labor. You're going to get flack from people who just hate investors. So that's the two type of flack. The other thing is the benefit to age. So you kind of have this, Mike. Mm-hmm. You've worked in law enforcement these many years. You worked in construction. You're raising your kid. You don't want to get shot at anymore. You kind of want to be there for your kid. You want to actually make it home. You're going to get to spend time with your kid, take him to the range, take him to the sports things, interact with all that kind of stuff. I totally get it. You want that, right? Mm-hmm. So when you reach financial freedom, you know that there's a version of life that sucks. I say this often, I made it to 40 without ever really having $1,000 in the bank. There might have been a couple of times where I had it, but it was quickly gone because I went out and bought whatever beater car would last for the next couple of years, right? And so at 40, I found out about a bunch of debt, was a single parent with 3 kids. Life just sucked. I took the next decade to reach financial freedom to make work optional. Now I never have to work again in my life. I know that for 40 years, life sucked. Like the first 2 years sucked, yes, but all of the years working sucked because I had to. Not because the job was good or bad, but because I had to work. Cody worked for like, I don't know, I think he showed up for a couple of minutes or something. He said in his live stream, it was like he showed up one day.
Yep.
He doesn't have that point of reference.
Mhm.
He has, you graduate high school, you invest in a bunch of properties, you develop relationships with owners, you get into $20 million worth of debt that creates the cash flow that you get to live your life on. He doesn't have that version of life sucks. And I think he's smart enough because his goal is to retire his mom. He knows his mom worked really hard. So he's got the mental capacity to know how good he's doing. But there are people who start investing at 18 and by 25, they're completely financially free. They have a very different perspective on financial freedom than somebody who's in their 30s or 40s, who's had 10 or 20 or more years of crappy work that you had to do, that all of a sudden the world changes when you don't have to work anymore. That's one benefit to age.
The best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life was being poor, being broke and dirt poor, and being born with no advantages. Like I had the one advantage, two advantages that I need. I was born in the USA and I have my health. That's all I needed. Thank God I was poor because it gave me the perspective I needed to beat everyone at everything, which is my goal.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm not a goal setter. I'm lazy. Lazy's powerful motivation. There is a question here from Jay. Howdy. Jay Aguilar. After saving for your first down payment on a multifamily, how much would be a safe number to have for backup in the bank? What are your thoughts, Mike?
Good question. Yeah, I think me personally, if I look in hindsight at when I was getting started, and I've said this before, I think that not having more reserves is probably the one thing I would change. I was lucky. I didn't have any major problems, any major expenses, but you could. And yeah, you could have a credit card with a line of credit as an emergency. I suppose that's one way of handling it. But I also understand the very real struggle of you might have to stretch to get started. And so it's up to you to determine what type of risk you're willing to undertake. For me, and I documented this on my channel, prior to me, because I started, my very first video is me. I have no rentals. I have no money, recently divorced, no custody to my kid, less than $1,000 in the bank. That's video one for me on my channel. And then the next videos are, I worked so much overtime. I stacked all of the paper in the bank so that I could buy a rental property. And so I said to myself, not only am I going to continue working overtime at this rate so I can save money again, which I did, but I knew if I had some big expense, I could pay it relatively quickly. But yeah, you definitely need a plan for how you're going to handle a major $15,000 cost out of the blue, because it could happen. And if I went back, it's easy for me to say, oh, I should have had more reserves. But at the time, it's like, well, okay, easy to say, but it's hard to save that. Should I really not buy a property that's maybe a good deal because I don't have enough reserves? I think that's up to the individual to decide. So, and in my case, I decided to get the property, stretch, exert myself, and it worked out. I'm glad that it did.
There are the common sense ways of looking at it. How much are you comfortable with? What kind of mistakes or emergencies could pop up? But there's also the requirement of the lender. In order to qualify for a mortgage, most lenders are going to require that you have at least 3 months of the value of the principal, interest, taxes, insurance of your portfolio. So when you're buying that first house, they're going to want to make sure you have enough money to pay your mortgage 2 or 3 times, right? Once you have 3 or 4 rentals, they look at the aggregate expenses of all of your mortgages and say, if we put all these together for 3 months, this should be your reserve. So the larger the portfolio, the lender requirements goes up. Some get really complex and say, we want 4% of the gross value of your properties. I haven't worked with that one, but I remember one asking that. I live in the hood. So, sorry.
Did a drive-by?
Yes. Nothing came through the wall. I think we're good. I live by JBLM, so it's kind of common. I kept $10,000 as reserve when I had 7 units or less. I figured I could handle something like a roof repair, a hot water heater, right, on a few units, a tenant not paying rent for a month or 2. That satisfied the lender's needs. When I got over 7 units, so when I had 4 properties with 7 units. When I started going above that, the next purchase was a 4-plex. I tripled it to 30,000. I figured Murphy's law is anything that can go wrong will. Murphy's fourth corollary is any sequence of events that can go wrong will, and in the worst possible order. So more than one thing can go wrong at the same time and in the worst order. So I wanted at least 30,000. That was while I was working. I had a decent W-2, right? I had been demoted down to president of the company. First few years, I was making $17 or $19 an hour for the first 4 years of my investing. At the end, I broke 6 figures of income. Make way more than that in rentals now, but I kept 30,000 as a reserve. That satisfied the lenders with the size of my portfolio. And when I retired, since I no longer have the W-2 income, the stability, the security, and I'm doing air quotes for anybody listening to this, not watching, of a W-2, I increased that to 50,000. But at each point, everything above 10,000, 30,000, or 50,000, everything above that needs to be in the account that is earmarked for being put to work to make more money. I wouldn't want to have more than 50,000 in reserve if I have a way to put that money to work. So actually, I don't use a high interest saving account. I don't use what do they call it? CDs, where you put money in the bank for a year to get a good return or anything like that, because I want that little irritating scratch at the back of my neck saying you have money in the bank that's losing value to inflation. You should find a place to put it to work. Like, I want that motivation on top of the comfort that comes from reaching financial freedom and being able to sit back and just not do anything with the money. But I want the motivation there. So that's how I handle my reserves. I saw a question that popped up from John, Texas. Howdy. How much liability coverage do you get for your insurance? We talked about this a little bit earlier. So if you ever listen to this in the future land on double speed, you'll hear that we both do the standard on the property, which is $300,000 slip fall. We both try to go for the largest deductible because we don't want to do claims unless we absolutely had to. I added an umbrella policy for $2 million in coverage, which started at $550 a year. Now it's like $630 a year for that $2 million in coverage, which kicks in if any of the lawsuits that I ever get hit by or injuries go above the $300,000 threshold on the property. Dividend Dave here talks a little bit about the difference between stocks and real estate. And when it comes to choosing, now I talk a lot of real estate because it was the method I chose. That doesn't mean it's the right one. There are three main paths to financial freedom, right? And you need to pick the one that works for you. There are thousands of ways to get there, but these are the three main ones. The first one is to start and grow a business with the goal of getting it to the size where somebody else runs the day-to-day, so you don't have to be there to run the business. The second is to invest in stocks, where you either use the 4% rule or a dividend portfolio to generate money that you live your life on. And the third is to invest in real estate. And there's hundreds of ways to do each one of those, right? So there's thousands of ways to reach financial freedom. The thing that matters the most is that you pick a strategy that excites you. Because growing a business, investing in stocks, or investing in real estate is going to have frustrating moments. You're going to have a bear market where stocks are down 20 to 40%. You are going to have a tenant sue you. You are going to have a title company mess up something and you have to deal with the IRS for the next year because you got a bill that wasn't really yours. You're going to have issues that irritate you. If you are excited about your investing strategy, you're more likely to stick to it. So I like your comment here, Dave. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
For reference, in 2022, so I have I've been investing into an IRA, a Roth IRA, since I was 22 years old. So this will be year 10. And it's all in mutual funds. When I was 22 years old, I called up a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider who set me up on a Roth IRA, invested in mutual funds, how Dave recommends. And it's done really, really well over the last 10 years. Last year, worst year for the stock market in recent times, it was down 25%. At the same time, my real estate paid me record cash flow, and I still had tons of appreciation. Not record, because 2021 was a little bit better, but tons of appreciation, record cash flow, real estate killed it. My stock portfolio got smoked.
That's a frustrating moment. So if you were only investing in that, you would think if stocks don't excite you, you'd be like, wow, I'm losing a bunch of money. You'd pull a Zuber. He turned $7,000 into $196,000. When it dropped to 40, he said, this doesn't excite me. Took the 40 out, bought 3 rentals.
I wouldn't have panic sold. I'm aware of the fact that if you are investing for the long term over 30 to 40 years, it's going to go up and down and up and down. You're going to have terrible years. 9 years of winning and 1 year of going down would not have scared me out of it. But I understand Zuber's story very well and why he was pissed. Wombat
Striker. I have been watching for over 6 months and actually met with my real estate agent tonight. That's actually a good thing. A lot of people think, so 2 things. Congratulations on finally taking this step. But a lot of people think I want to get into real estate. I'm going to go talk to my agent, which is not the first thing that you do. I think I missed a super chat from Lauren too. I want to get back to that here. But so now you have a basis. you understand cash flow, yield, all the challenges that come up with real estate. You kind of have an idea of what real estate. We're 6 months watching our content. Now you go talk to your agent, and it's not you go talk to the agent, start making offers. It's go talk to the agent and brainstorm, right? Hopefully Wombat Striker, you've also talked to a lender to find out what your options are. That step actually happens before the agent. You can meet and talk with an agent, but they're going to be more excited if you know what you can borrow. But 6 months is a perfect timeline to say, I've studied for 6 months. Now I'm going to go talk to an agent. I think I missed. Make sure I didn't miss any more. So Lauren, hopefully you're still there. Thank you for the super chat. Let me know if I read this already, Mike, because my memory kicks in sometimes. Awesome that the fourth amigo is on your show tonight. I agree. Thank you both for everything that you do and everything that you teach us. I hope to see you, Lauren, at the next Tacoma FI. I understand. I think the last one I was in Vegas, and I think the one before that you were working because you're working. So hopefully we see you at the next one.
Yeah. And thank you for the kind words.
Yep. Cody, the recent superstar. Thank you for the great content as always. My question is, will Mike retire before Matt?
No, that's not going to happen. Matt's done this year, guys.
I would have put money on Matt being done last year, but yeah, this year for sure.
He had an extremely good reason why he didn't finish last year. I won't share his reason because I think it's personal, but yeah,
he did. He shared it before too. I told him.
Okay. Yeah. And, but yeah, no, I unfortunately, I still got a few years left. So
I've hit the 6 month mark on being retired. And I remember listening to Zuber say he retired and he felt like a loser because he didn't know what to do with his time. So he thought he might fail so bad he was going to go back to work. So then he did the one rental at a time. So I'm going to share my story. I'm going to share how to teach it. So it became a thing for him. Glad he found his thing. I don't have that. I can't imagine anything on the planet other than like we're absolutely invaded and I have to move to another country that would ever make me go get a job again.
Right.
So, Rob, what will the IRS agents do if they get unemployed? SWAT, perhaps. Are there any openings right now, Mike?
I mean, yeah, you have to be employed by the department first. But yeah, I don't think we have enough openings for 90,000 IRS agents. And I got a feeling those pencil pushers probably can't pass a physical fitness test.
No, not for SWAT.
Probably not. It's brutal. It's physical fitness test. If anybody wants to know, just go look up PFQ, the letters PFQ, National Tactical Officers Association, PFQ, and read through what the test is, and you'll throw up just reading through it. It's making me sick just thinking about it.
Here's something that will probably confuse any of the veterans in the chat or watching this video in Futureland. Hello, Futureland. Marine Corps boot camp was 10 times easier than a law enforcement academy.
Oh, yes, that is surprising because you went to CJTC, which is, as I like to call it, CJJV, but that's just me being a jerk.
Well, it's because at the time I actually wanted to make a little money as a cop, and you guys were paying like $30,000 a year.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not good for a while there.
Yeah. Cody, to Wombat Striker, I also had to move to an apartment for a short period of time, so I wouldn't have my offers contingent on our home selling before I bought our first house hack. It comes down to what are you willing to do, right? So I'm going to put my email in the chat for people who want to reach out with questions or people want to reach out for that spreadsheet. But when we get to that listing of the email, we're probably going to start wrapping up. So I'm going to look through these comments to see if there's any other questions in here. Wombat Striker wants to look at duplexes with an agent. Good. I would suggest adding to your search, Wombat Striker, when you're talking to your agent, houses with ADU, and then include every way that ADU can be described. So ADU, JADU, accessory dwelling unit, auxiliary dwelling unit, granny flat, mother-in-law house, because the numbers work just like a duplex, but it actually qualifies for true single-family lending. Living Good says the guy looks bored on the right. So he's talking about you. And that's because Mike's reading his chat on his phone. Living
Yeah,
Good.
I'm
Because
paying attention so I can respond to you
we're
guys.
doing this on Zoom. So it looks like, yeah, we got to look at the phone to be able to go to the chat. So we don't have like a high-tech setup. We are not professional YouTubers. What we are is investors trying to share our information. And neither one of us, although you will in 4 years, has a 10-year-old around to run the tech for us.
God, well,
So
yeah.
it's definitely going to increase then.
God, I'd be 10 years old. That's crazy.
Brandon, howdy. Thank you for that. No question. I appreciate the content and the live streams. I thank you very much for that. I like the live streams because, again, I talked about this earlier. You're getting to be the ability to ask a question and get an answer based on the information that an investor keeps in their mind. So if you ask a question and we don't know the answer, it means it's not something we've had to keep top of mind awareness. JS, check. Lawsuit and kitchen fire. Nice. Sorry for that. I'm 1.25 years into it with 3 houses, 4 for 4 for bad tenants. Be ready. It can be hard. Yes, it definitely can be hard. My first tenant, if I could take that one tenant out, my entire investing perception would be different. So be ready for the bad times, but you're doing good if you're that far into it with that many rentals.
Sure. See that question about 401k from Chris Hernandez?
No, can you read it while I find it?
Yeah, I think it's applicable to you because you just did this. Chris Hernandez asks, do you think it's good to wait to empty the 401k until after the cash flow replaces the income, or is there a tipping point to go ahead and drain your 401k?
Multifaceted answer. And I hate any answer that comes with it depends, right? So I'm not going to say it depends, but here are some of the options. Don't touch what people call equity on your first or second deal. I call it adding debt to an existing asset because you don't have your systems in place, right? That applies to retirement accounts. I wouldn't touch retirement accounts. Don't put the money at risk for your retirement while you're learning your first or second deal. You're going to make your biggest mistakes. You're probably going to lose the most amount of money on those deals. You can lose money later, and some people do, but that's when we tend to make our biggest mistakes. So I wouldn't put it at risk in the beginning. And it's not so much a cash flow thing. It's once you have your systems in place and you have confidence in your ability to get a return, and you want to retire early. A 401k or a retirement account makes total sense if you plan on retiring after 59 and a half. I heard the money guys say this the other day, and it broke my brain. They said, I don't want cash flow now. I want cash flow when I retire. And I was like, well, you get the cash flow so you can retire. That's the way my brain works.
You can get it at both. Two things can be true at once. You can have it now and later.
So you have a use for your 401k right now without touching it, tapping it, taking out, or anything, is to use it as a reserve. You have to save up the down payment, closing costs, money for immediate repairs, and reserves so that the lender thinks that your position is stable so they can lend you the money. You can use your retirement account as a reserve. 50% of it will count as a reserve without having to take it out. So then you have that money if an emergency happens. I don't recommend really doing that in the beginning either, but it is a use. I use that on my fifth purchase, when I purchased my fourplex. Yeah, fifth purchase. I used my retirement account as a reserve, but there was several purchases in before I would let my reserve go down that much to where I needed to do that. I would continue to contribute for the match as long as you have it, because that's part of your compensation package. If you're not getting the match, you're not getting for your full compensation. The difference is if you're looking for a job and you have two companies, one has a 401k and one doesn't, look at the pay. Generally, the pay at the one without the 401k is higher because they're going to compensate you the same for your skill level, with your number of years of experience in your field. But one will lower your pay so they can do a match with your 401k. But if you're already working at a company that has a 401k, you should get the match because it is part of your compensation. Don't miss that part of your money. People call it free money. I call it part of your pay. Once you have your systems and you have confidence in your ability to get the return, I wouldn't take the money out of the retirement account unless you actually know you're going to get the deal. And the deal has to justify the expense. You're going to pay 10% to pull it out early. You're going to pay the taxes on it. So once you pay the taxes and the 10% and you take the money out and you put it to work, I put it to work in a triplex that started year one with a 17% cash on cash return. It's like almost 30% now. So nice. 2.5 years later. So that purchase didn't suck. So that's when I recommend doing it. When you have the right deal, you're going to get a return that's good enough and you're okay with paying the taxes and the penalty. I did it in 2020. So there was a little bit of luck involved because yay, the thing you can't say on YouTube without getting demonetized happened, and you could pull money out from the CARES Act without paying the penalty. So watch for something like that. You can also take up, I think it's up to $15,000 out of your 401k to put towards the down payment on your first owner occupied purchase, which can be a duplex. Right? It can be an FHA triplex or fourplex. As long as you're owner occupying your retirement account, you can take money out without paying the penalty. You're still going to pay the taxes.
Well, I'm going to defend the Money Guy show for a second because I actually like their show.
I like their stuff too, but that thing broke my brain.
Right. That is a dumb thing to say. So I've watched their show since before they had 17,000 subscribers, and I pegged them as like a future success. Bo Hansen and Brian, I forget what his last name is. They give advice on how to prepare yourself for retirement the traditional way, the conventional way, the stocks, 401ks, and IRA way. Now, what I talked about earlier about how you need to expect from yourself greatness, you want to be in the 1%, you want to be different, right? They're helping regular people. And the work that they do to help regular people is valuable because most people are never going to be Dion, they're never going to be Matt, they're never going to be Mike, they're never going to be you guys. And so if you can help these people come up with a way where they can save for retirement, retire with dignity, and they can invest into something that's most likely going to be successful. And yes, it's not going to get them the cash flow they want to retire early, but significantly better than relying on the government. So I absolutely respect what they do. If I was going to recommend any piece of their content for you to watch, it would be what they do every year on net worth. Every year they release the net worth by age video. Just type in net worth by age Money Guy show. It's amazing. They take a calculation from this book, The Millionaire Next Door, which calculates net worth to be a prodigious accumulator of wealth. They calculate what the average net worth for someone in their 30s is, and then what the top 25%, the prodigious accumulator of wealth is. And I'm going to do a video updating my net worth because it's a new year and I need to do it. And I like to set myself the goal of being in the top 10% of net worth for my age. So I think they provide good content. It's very interesting to listen to their net worth show. So I highly recommend you go watch it. But yeah, I think real estate absolutely crushes stocks. And I think their real estate investing advice, much like Dave Ramsey's, is subpar, lackluster. But I do like them as content creators.
I talk about them often because I watch their content and I like them and I like their show. What I don't like is the comment section in their Facebook groups that strip the skin off you if you mention real estate. So yes, they are talking to the people who work to regular retirement age, who invest for the long term, who want to benefit from compound interest and all of the strategies that work for, like you called them, normal people. That is not what I want to be. So every time I bring them up and I say something that they said that broke my brain, it's not me saying that they have bad content.
Dude, there's people out there who give stock investing advice that are straight up crooks, fake gurus, scammers, liars. That is not them. They are good dudes doing it a different way, and they serve a very much needed portion of the population. But we just have different beliefs when it comes to investing for cash flow.
Actually, I want to give them credit. There's a video that we did where we reacted to some TikTok advice. Mm-hmm. I'll give them credit. I get the idea from watching one of their videos where they did something similar to that. I have two questions here that came up that are going to be directed at you, Mike. The first one from Wandering Doc to Mike: are you currently working a full-time job?
Yeah, dude. And I said thanks for your service, by the way, because I didn't know you were in the military. My guy, my brother is, my best friend was. So thank you for your service. But yeah, I have a full W-2 job. I am a police officer in Washington, around the Seattle area, one of the hardest places to be a cop. I'm a full-time. I'm a SWAT officer, so I get called out all the time. I love it. I get to jump out of helicopters, get a lot of range time, get to be in a lot of interesting situations. Rob said earlier that I enjoy getting shot at. That is not true. That is not, I don't enjoy it. Yes, you get a bit of an adrenaline rush, but the zzz right past you as it then pings off of some armor you're standing behind. Yeah, that one makes your hands sweat a little bit. And then full-time YouTuber, honestly, with the amount of time I spend doing this, full-time single father, full custody of my son, haven't seen his mom in years. She bounced once she realized she wasn't going to get custody. Never seen her since. So yeah, I'm a busy guy, and I love working. Even when I retire, even when I make it financial freedom, I will not be able to just sit around and play WoW all the time. Dion and I will raid together. We will. but I will have one max level character instead of all of them like Dion. So, because I will have to I'm probably going to get a real estate license and try to buy and sell real estate in Florida. And, I'll come up with something creative to do.
For me, the wow thing is it's a revenge thing. So for many years, it was a side hustle. I did it so I'd have something to do with my kids and we made money. And then 2015 till now, I stopped playing because I was focused on real estate and I made more money on that as a side hustle than online gaming. But now that I'm retired, I'm like, nope, I'm going to play and try to actually enjoy the game because that's a first. Here's the second question for you from Justin. Millennial Mike, I've heard you say a few times that you want to live in Miami. Where about in Miami do you have your eye on?
Well, when I talk about Florida, I visited Florida twice, and I've been to Miami both times. I've been in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I did go up to Universal Studios in Orlando. I don't have a specific neighborhood. My plan is I'm going to buy 2 properties. I will, and I'm not sure which one I'll get first, but I will get a duplex further inland where it's cheaper. Like as soon as you get 25, 30 miles away from the coast, everything gets a lot less expensive. So I'll buy a duplex that I can house hack. So that payment hopefully covers nearly all the mortgage. Then I will buy a condo right on the beach. And that condo I will use as my first short-term Airbnb property. I'm going to learn that system. And the reason I'll do that is so that I can rent the condo out to pay for itself. But when I want to be there on my beach condo, living it up with the ladies, AKA Dion and Matt, probably, when I want to be there having a good time, like I can go and chill at the condo, but then it'll pay for itself. So that is my plan. I haven't necessarily picked where, but it will be on the beach and further inland. That's my plan.
Well, there you go. I like Florida. I don't know that I'd want to live there. One of the things I like about Washington is there's very few things trying to kill us. We live under the shadow of Mount Rainier that can just kill everybody all at once. That's fine. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, alligators, like poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders. We just don't have a very big list of things here. But I'll visit Florida. Question here from Michael. Howdy. Hey, Dion, longtime lurker, great content. Thank you. Have you ever thought about doing a video on a hypothetical look back if you took all the cash you put into your rentals into equities? I have perhaps just use as NASDAQ and S&P for simplicity and see what the sort of returns you would have today versus where you are today. I haven't because it would be too much of a hit piece on stocks. Out of my own pocket into real estate, I was able to invest about $320,000 in 13 years, right? I invested about another 300 from cash flow, but I was able to do that because I was house hacking, which you can't do from stocks. So that's, $1,200 a month decrease in expenses. I'm actually being paid to live where I'm at now. So the amount I would have been able to invest in stocks, I wouldn't even have the ability to take a couple of years off, let alone retire early. Compared to, actually right now, don't have any money invested in my real estate because there's about $500,000 in the bank from the cash flow from rentals that's built up. So I have my $320,000 back that I would have put in from my own pocket and more money from cash flow sitting there to possibly put into the next deal. So then I might have my money back into real estate. So I have no money in my real estate. I generate a couple $100,000 a year in profit. I pay 0 taxes. Do you see the comparison? There's no way for me to say if I invested in stocks and I did the math, and I didn't, I was able to make my $320,000 investment and get an expected 10% return over 13 years. Here's what my math would be. I'd probably come up with like $500,000 or maybe $700,000 or something like that. If I sold everything and walked away, that doesn't kick off enough with the 4% rule to live on. That doesn't kick off enough in dividends. And the dislike I have for dividends is every time a dividend payment is given out, the value of the stock drops about the amount of the payment. So there's really no appreciation there. Like there's all these reasons why I don't like stocks. So if I make the video, it's literally going to sound like I hate stocks. And I try to be very clear in every video saying, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm an investor. That's why I haven't grown a business to the point where somebody else runs the day-to-day. That's one path to financial freedom. I'm not a stock guy because it's not for me. It doesn't excite me. Real estate does, but that doesn't mean it's not right for you, right? So I want other people who really love stocks to invest in stocks. That is a viable way. I watched Joe Kuhn here on YouTube. He retired at, I think, 54. He's been retired for 4 years now. He used the bucket method, only investing in stocks, doesn't own any real estate as rentals. He did do some live-in flips where you move in, fix a place, and then sell and buy it. So he's got some of his revenue from real estate, but he doesn't do rentals. I tell everybody that's into stocks, really watch his content. His strategy is very sound. He's ready for a bear market. He's done all these things. So I want to promote reaching financial freedom. if I do a video, even a hypothetical that goes, look at all the unicorns and fairies and puppies and kittens of owning real estate, and I'd still be working for another 15 years if I had anything. If I had a penny in retirement accounts, which is not true. If I had more money in retirement accounts, I'd still be working, because I have like $11,000 in a retirement account I need to pull out this month, actually, because I don't have any W-2 income this year. It's going to be in the lowest bracket, and I just need to empty it out. Maybe that's what I'll use to pay for part of the cruise. Whatever. But so that's why I haven't done a hypothetical. Even if I try to put stocks in the best light comparing to how real estate's gone for me, it will look like I'm just saying how much stocks suck. And I don't want it to come out that way, because I want somebody who's not going to own real estate, who doesn't want to deal with tenants, termites, and toilets, or property management, or acquiring a rental, or anything that it takes to reach financial freedom. If stocks is your path, I don't want people to think, I don't think that's viable. I think it's totally viable. It's just not the way that I chose. I have done videos on if I saved all cash to buy the Dave Ramsey method versus if I did my strategy. My strategy now is a couple $100,000 in cash flow, never have to work again, 2 hours a month to self-manage 16 rentals with $1.8 million in debt, versus all cash. I would possibly, if I was able to work a ton of overtime, keep doing my side hustle, and never let life creep set in, maybe own one duplex now. Maybe. So I've pointed out that the differences in opinions there. So are there any other questions coming in here?
I mean, people are talking about lots of things, having conversations down here. REI Stoners goes, real estate investing isn't scary. Going to jail for growing and extracting was scary. It's a big part of my why. I'll have to make a video. Yeah, dude, it'll be legal nationwide in like 10 years guaranteed. It's the biggest waste of time to not have that be legal. So I voted for it to be legal back in 2012 when it first passed here in Washington. He's from here, right? Yeah, because I'm supposed to see him at the next Tacoma meetup. So it's got to be from around here. Let's see here.
Although REI Stoners, jail is the ultimate house hack and an option for retirement.
But how can you be financially free if you're not free?
but you have good dental.
Yeah. Jay Aguilar says, Mike, how many rentals do you have, and when do you plan on giving up your day job, and what would you do when you do give up your job? Seems like you have a lot of time on your hands. I have 8 rental properties, 10 units. I got 2 duplexes, 6 single family homes. I'm just chasing deals right now, making phone call. Dion, I called 8 real estate agents today. How many do you think picked up their phone and answered?
One.
It's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. You should be work 1. Anyways, and I haven't gotten any calls back yet. This was hours ago. So yeah, I'm chasing deals right now because I'm trying to get more, because there's opportunity. Unfortunately, much to the Crash Bros' dismay, as interest rates have dipped back below 6%, it's bringing buyers back. So there was great opportunity these last couple months while interest rates were in the 6s and in the 7s. There was no activity, crashing transactions that we've been talking about. There's no buyers. When there's no buyers, you're the only buyer. You get to do whatever you want and ask for whatever you want. And so I'm sitting here, I'm making all these deals, but now I'm competing again, and I'm competing against homeowners who will overpay and finance it out, who don't have to make money on the deal. So it's like, now I'll still find some deals, but I'm just getting real picky. I'm trying to get a bigger package is what I'm trying to do. So thanks for the question, Jay.
Thank you, Michael, for the super chat. I appreciate it. You really appreciate the answer. I guess that I was getting at is the power of using leverage in real estate and the sustained tax benefits and perpetual cash flow from real estate versus equities. Thanks. So to think it through one more step, and again, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. With my portfolio, I haven't really considered this yet, but it's a possibility. Instead of buying another rental, I have a couple of options. I could pay down debt to increase cash flow. And if you pay down debt and you pay off a mortgage, the cash flow doesn't increase by the percentage of the mortgage. This is probably a video that we should make. If you have a 4% interest rate on your mortgage and you pay off the mortgage, you don't increase your cash flow by 4% because you gain two portions of the mortgage into your cash flow. You get the principal pay down and the interest. So both of those go. So you can increase your cash flow by paying off debt at some point. It's not part of the growth strategy. So don't do that before you've grown your portfolio to where you want it. But the other thing is, Warren Buffett often talks about diversifying, right? And Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, talks about having no more than 20% in one asset class, no more than 5% in one asset. So they're really big on diversifying. And then Charlie Munger, Warren's partner of like 70 years now, talks about that's stupid. You don't diversify to get rich. You focus on one asset, master it to become wealthy. And then once you're wealthy, you diversify to protect it. So now maybe at the point of the size of my portfolio, I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe this is the time I consider looking at dividend stocks or equities or something that produces cash flow that isn't real estate to diversify to protect my portfolio, which I've diversified in the one asset class, which I've talked about a dozen times, but probably way more than that, but being diversified in one asset class to protect my portfolio. So again, I'm not saying stocks or equities aren't right. I'm saying that focusing on one asset class to grow it, to then diversify, makes more sense to me. Wandering Doc asking Dave, do you have a YouTube channel? There you go. David, howdy. People are going to get freaked out by how little rental inventory will be by summer 2023. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. There was a period in December where inventory spiked. And it was new listings went down. Beth Traverso, #1 rated agent that goes on one rental at a time. Often she's actually been here during our live streams before. She knew better than to pop in tonight and say anything because Mike would invite her on here and give her work. But new listings went down, but existing listings stayed on the inventory longer to where it looked like there was an increase in inventory. Inventory dropped in January. So I want to make a short where I say, I hope you enjoyed the housing crash. Sorry you missed it if you did, because the housing crash is like summer in Washington, and we really hope it lands on a weekend. Because it's not like housing prices crash and they just go down and down and down and down and down. That could happen over a period of a few years. But when we have so much equilibrium in supply and demand, like there is as much supply as the demand. And what happens is people's buying power changed when the interest rates changed. So less people could buy, so less transactions happened. But we don't have an increase in inventory. The new builds aren't happening. People aren't becoming forced sellers. I think that there's going to be a rental shortage coming in 2023. I talked about this the other day when I did a video, like a 10-minute video it's like an 8-minute video on the benefits of rent control for owners, like how it makes us rich. I would triple my rental profit on my portfolio versus how it hurts tenants. But a lot of owners don't have that opinion. They see rent control as government interference and they're going to try to get out. And get out doesn't mean they're going to sell. It means they're going to do like they did in Seattle. They're going to turn long-term rentals into mid and short-term rentals. They're going to have Airbnb, Vrbo, traveling nurses, corporate insurance. And so Seattle lost 3,000 rentals when they instituted something that was even like rent control. So I think we're going to see more and more of that as the year goes on.
Yeah, this is another great reason why it's a good idea to invest in states that are business friendly, in states that are landlord fair. I don't like when people say landlord friendly, because I don't want a state that's going to unfairly bias the courts against the landlord. And I don't think that any do, but there are definitely states that are unfairly biased for or in favor of the tenant, where the tenant is just allowed to run roughshod over the business owner, over the landlord. I just want a fair shake. Like, yes, here's all the stipulations of what I have to do to carry out an eviction to be a legal, lawful, and decent landlord. And if I follow them, and the tenant doesn't hold up their end, then I get to evict them. I don't like it where I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and the court says, we have a major health event. We, the government, are not going to pay to take care of these people. We're screwing over by telling them they need to stay home. Instead, we're going to tell the landlord that the landlord has to subsidize these people, because we know, again, only 1% of people out there are going to be landlords, but we got 50% of people that are renters, and we want their votes. We don't care about these guys. So then they side with whoever is the larger voting basis. And so I'm not a fan of that. It's important to make sure that you are in an area where you can actually operate your business successfully long-term. And Seattle is not that place. Seattle makes no sense to me. I mean, I always make the joke that, yeah, my law enforcement career in Seattle is me just essentially refereeing sword fights between homeless people poking each other with heroin needles. They're just out there doing stupid stuff. And that's all I do is, hey, stop, don't poke. Well, all right, now it's assault, but they're not going to charge you with it anyways. Like, why would you ever want to live there or operate a business there? It's terrible.
Question here from Jay Aguilar. Dion, do you recommend going with the 40-year mortgage? I listened to one of your videos and you said you didn't care if it was a 1,000-year mortgage. What are the benefits of going with 40-year? And then Wandering Dog says I didn't know lenders were doing 40-year. They have been for a couple of years. Actually, one of the requirements coming off of the CARES Act, when people went on forbearance to make this a very different housing situation than we had in 2008, during the housing forbearance in 2008, when you came off it, a lot of people were forced to immediately pay the amount of the deferred payments all at once. And they couldn't, causing a lot of the foreclosures. Now, lenders were required to offer terms. You can add the missed payments onto the end of the loan without an increase in interest at the same fixed rate. You could offer a 40-year loan product. So this started in 2020. So 40-year loan product to come off of forbearance. Convoy Home Loans has a product that was either 30-year or 40-year on up to 8 units on a DSCR loan. So really your income, your work history didn't matter, your debt to income ratio didn't matter, your credit score mattered, and how the property would perform mattered. And they were offering 30 or 40-year loans. It was interest only for 10 years on the 40-year. And you did have to buy down one more point to get the 40-year versus the 30-year. So there was a couple other things to look at. I don't care if it's a 1,000-year mortgage because I don't care that the property's ever paid off. That doesn't matter to me. Financial freedom is financial freedom. So if I have cash flow from my properties coming in, no matter what the debt is on them, having a paid off property doesn't make it yours. Stop paying the taxes and see how long it still belongs to you. Having a paid off property can increase your equity position, but I have more equity on properties that I have debt on than I have equity in the property that I have that's paid off because of the value difference of the properties. So paying it off doesn't matter. I want to keep an overall leverage position. When I was working around 70%, so I was getting the best growth. And now that I'm not working, don't have a W-2, I want it to be at 50% or less so that I have better stability. But that doesn't matter to me when the property is paid off. Eventually, the tenants will pay it off, unless I recast, refinance, HELOC, or any of those other kind of things where I put debt on an existing asset, because who knows what's going to happen in the future, might be a thing. I don't care that it's paid off. What I care about is the cash flow. Is the cash flow enough for me to live my life? Is it multiples of what it takes for me to live my life before I walked away from my job? I used a thing called the 4X rule. My freedom number was about $4,000 a month. That's even kind of padding it a little because I was house hacking. So if I wasn't house hacking, it might have been a little bit more, but when I was house hacking, it was 4. Once my cash flow reached 4 times that, I felt kind of silly going to work. So one of the reasons why I retired is because I hit that. So 40-year, does it make sense? Will it cash flow? How much does it change it if you have to buy it down to the 40-year? If you plan on selling in the next 5, 10, or 15 years, I don't know that I would do interest only because we can't count on appreciation being enough to cover the cost of selling. You don't want to have to write a check to lose an asset. So there's a lot of ways to look at it. I'm looking at the 40-year as an option on anything that I do going forward.
Heck yeah. Better cash flow. It's just that easy.
I think we'll be wrapping it up about there unless there's a question that you see, Mike.
Yeah, we've done like almost 3 hours. I couldn't believe. Scott Coleman goes, could the 4 of you make a video for Reventure Consulting entitle it From the 4 Horsemen of the Non-Apocalypse? That's fantastic. Great promotion for you, exposing, challenging him to a live debate. Yeah, so he's not going to debate us. He's not going to. We've left comments before.
Oh.
It's not going to happen. I made a 4-part series exposing this guy, just roasting him, and some of those videos did pretty well. They're going to continue to do well. We have issued requests to go on Saks Realty to provide an alternative perspective to the Crash Bros. We've tried to get a debate between Real Estate Mindset, like, hey man, like, let's just have a conversation, let's have a discussion, or we could do a formal debate. You can pick the questions, you can pick the moderator, you can name the place. Matt's offered money. Hey man, $10,000 to the charity you want for a debate. We'll live stream it so nothing can be edited out, and it's just crickets. And so for anybody who watches those guys, leave comments that say, hey, you want to debate them, go for it, because nobody's.
We've made the same offer for Travis. Real estate mindset. We've said, let's have a debate. Somebody that's obviously a Travis fan came into Zuber's chat and said, why don't you debate Travis? He's offered, which is not true. Zuber's been offering for months. We've offered for months. Matt was actually on his channel once, and it only went out because it wasn't a debate.
Right.
We've offered to debate that all the time because there is no validity in any argument. First, if somebody's not an investor, right? Get your information from somebody who's done what you're wanting to do. Second, so if you want information on how to be a lender and how to be a predatory lender in 2008, don't watch my channel, watch his. If somebody makes a call every 2 days for 2 years on something that hasn't happened, it's not a debate. So we're always willing to, though.
A broken clock's still right twice a day. Yeah.
All right. And so I think the next time we do a live, Mike, we should set like a 1 hour timer, and then you dip out at an hour because you still have a life. Tuesdays from here.
I'm stuck at my computer right now because I'm still uploading videos on Matt's behalf. I have been at my computer since 6 a.m. this morning. I should have live streamed the whole process.
Right. You should have. All right. We're going to wrap it up there on YouTube. You know your new days off. Do you think there's any days you're going to be doing some live streams coming up?
Yeah, I'll be doing Tuesday night live streams with Dion. And tomorrow, Dion and I are going to go film a whole bunch of short content together. So you guys can look forward to that. We're going to go
on the slides,
release our inner Instagram, TikTok, teenage girls. We're going to channel that energy and see if we can't, become famous, and, wish us luck.
Hopefully nobody get hurt on the slide. Hey, there's water here. We could do the cold plunge right in Ruston.
Bro, I'll do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll do it.
Awesome. You guys have a week full of amazing, and I will see you in the comments of the Lumberjack live stream Sunday morning, 8:30 Pacific. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.